Narrator reflects on the difficulty of hiding a zombie amidst a gossip-filled and observant society.
Narrator notes a noble zombie would be scandalous and wishes for someone to ask for help.
A hand holds a quill, carefully writing within the pages of a small open book.
High society gathers at the ballroom of the Blonde Empire's noble banquet for a formal event.
The blonde-haired girl gazes ahead with an expression of intense, wide-eyed admiration and excitement.
Yulia Walker, the third child of Duke Walker, appears refined and elegant at the Empire's banquet.
Yulia and the blonde-haired girl both look back with expressions of sudden and startled surprise.
Emily Walker, the fourth child of Duke Walker, smiles warmly while standing beside her sister.
Narrator states that she was previously obsessed with the specific ruby earrings she is currently wearing. The blonde-haired girl asks if those are top-grade ruby earrings from the Holman mines, while a note advises that zombies have pale skin and require special makeup.
Emily offers a subtle and knowing smile while listening to the conversation at the party.
Looking over at a greeting, the pink-haired girl wonders why Isaac's hands are so cold.
The dark-haired man wearing glasses responds with a confused and hesitant vocalization after being questioned.
Looking increasingly nervous and panicked, the man with glasses struggles to find his words.
The man with glasses holds an ice-filled drink as a tip notes zombies have low body temperatures and must avoid physical contact.
The man with glasses claims his cold hands are simply the result of holding his drink.
While Emily observes, a servant panics after accidentally shattering a wine glass near the guests.
Edmund Walker, the firstborn Duke of Walker, looks at his bloodied hand while Emily expresses concern.
Emily quickly uses a small cloth to blot the wine and blood from her brother's hand.
Emily rushes to check on Edmund while a tip mentions that zombies do not bleed and must avoid all injuries.
Edmund stares down at his sister as she offers him a comforting and reassuring smile. A man in a tuxedo runs forward in a frantic panic, shouting to ask if the Lord is unharmed.
Edmund states he is fine, but decides to leave the event immediately following the messy accident.
Wiping sweat from his brow, the host thanks the Duke for attending despite the sudden disruption.
A narrative box expresses the hope that this specific guide will eventually prove useful someday.
Inside a dark carriage, the four siblings sit together in a moment of quiet, shared travel.
Emily firmly shuts the dark-covered book she was holding with a decisive and sharp motion.
Emily reflects on their narrow escape from discovery and the unpredictable nature of life.
Leaning against her sister, Emily recalls the tragic events that occurred only 1 week prior.
Yulia stares forward with a grim and somber expression while reflecting on their shared past.
Edmund remains silent with his eyes closed, his face reflecting a deep sense of internal sorrow.
Isaac looks down despondently, his gaze focused on the floor of the moving carriage.
Emily lies face down in a forest clearing, wondering what has just happened to her. The family carriage traveled along a paved road toward the youngest sibling's academy entrance ceremony. Edmund and Yulia sat inside as the narrator explains they took a shortcut while running late.
Isaac joked about their cot gaining weight just before the carriage began to shake violently.
Sensing immediate danger, Isaac threw Emily out of the carriage and into the roadside bushes. Recovering on the forest floor, Emily hears thumping sounds and worries about Isaac and Yulia.
Hiding behind foliage, Emily watches as mysterious hooded figures approach the site of the crash. Crows fly over the wreckage as the hooded figures conclude that everyone is dead.
The attackers decide to head back, believing the passengers were crushed beyond any possible recognition.
Emily sits up among the trees, her eyes wide with shock as the figures depart.
Emily limps toward the mangled and overturned remains of the family's luxury carriage. A look of absolute horror crosses Emily's face as she discovers the state of the crash.
Pools of blood stain the grass near a severed hand and a broken carriage wheel.
Emily stares at her sister's bloodied and lifeless form resting on the forest ground.
Standing amidst the gore and wreckage, Emily realizes with despair that she is now all alone.
Weeping uncontrollably, Emily cries out the names of her siblings into the empty forest. Rain begins to fall as Emily begs for anyone to answer her desperate pleas.
Emily collapses in grief on the blood-soaked grass beside the ruins of her family's carriage. Shadows loom over the bloody wreckage of the carriage where a strange creature watches.
Lev wakes up amidst the gore, yawning and confused about their current location.
The cat complains about his messy fur, showing more concern for grooming than death. Emily looks on at the cat, coldly observing that human lives end quite easily.
Desperately, Emily pleads with Love to help her save her fallen family from death.
A dark spirit emerges, questioning what the young contractor desires in exchange for help.
Emily commands the spirit to bring her siblings back to life through her magic.
The setting shifts to a grand hall where families gather for a formal ceremony.
Andrea Walker waits anxiously at his academy entrance ceremony, hoping for his family's arrival.
Voices in the crowd comment on the young boy's cuteness as he stands alone.
Isaac arrives and sweeps Andrea into his arms, apologizing for being late due to carriage trouble.
A magical glow surrounds the brothers as Isaac tries to comfort his worried little sibling.
Andrea protests his brother's pampering, insisting that he is no longer a small child.
The young boy's eyes widen as he notices something surprising about his returning family members. The four siblings stand together in a formal portrait, hiding the secrets of their survival. Isaac notices Yulia's sickly complexion and asks if she is feeling well enough to continue.
Andrea happily greets Lev the cat, unaware of the dark ritual that saved his siblings.
Emily offers a gentle smile as she receives gratitude, maintaining her calm, composed exterior.
Andrea looks up with joy, delighted to have his brothers and sisters by his side.
The heavy wooden doors of the study close, signaling the start of a private meeting.
Isaac signals that they are finally alone and can speak freely about their strange situation.
Tension fills the air as Isaac looks at Emily with a stern and questioning gaze.
The siblings confront Emily, demanding an explanation for the bizarre changes they feel within. Emily prepares to reveal the grim truth behind her family's miraculous return from the dead.
Emily explains that she has transformed them into beings very similar to the living dead.
Yulia reacts with horror, questioning if they have truly become the monsters from her nightmares.
Emily clarifies the nature of their state, distinguishing them from common, mindless, flesh-eating zombies.
She expresses her regret for acting without their consent to prevent their permanent passing.
Yulia grabs Emily, insisting that the lack of permission is the least of their worries. Frantic and confused, Yulia asks how such a dark and impossible miracle could even happen.
Emily admits that she has only preserved their corpses rather than granting them true life. Isaac realizes that Emily's long-dormant ability has finally manifested as the power to raise dead.
Emily explains her magic allows her to subjugate souls and bind them to new bodies.
She describes how she forcibly trapped their souls within their bodies after the fatal crash. The siblings stand in stunned silence as the weight of their immortality begins to sink. Edmund looks at Emily with a somber expression, identifying her as a forbidden dark mage. Emily confirms her new identity, acknowledging the dangerous path she has chosen for them all.
Overwhelmed by the impossible news, Isaac slams his fist onto the table in frustration. A close-up reveals the subtle, unnatural glow in Isaac's eye, a sign of his transition.
Horror strikes as Isaac's hand suddenly detaches from his arm and falls to the floor. Isaac stares at his severed limb, the reality of Emily's explanation becoming physically undeniable.
Yulia panics, noting that dark mages have been missing for centuries and are now nearby.
She reminds Emily that she is still a member of the noble house of Walker.
A visual metaphor shows the oppressive scrutiny of high society that now threatens their existence.
Isaac asks how they can explain their survival to others if they reject Emily's help.
Edmund acknowledges the grim reality that any discovery by the church means certain execution. A sword piercing a skull represents the deadly threat the Holy See poses to them. Yulia proposes that they fake their deaths and go into hiding to stay safe.
Emily realizes that faking their deaths would leave the family's future in Merman's. She worries that Andrea is far too young to protect the family's legal interests alone.
Emily looks down with a solemn expression, contemplating the heavy burden of her family's future.
She declares they must remain hidden for 7 years until Andrea reaches adulthood to avoid discovery.
The young Andrea stands with his back turned, unaware of the secret his siblings now keep.
Isaac expresses doubt about their safety, noting that someone could accidentally lose an arm while traveling.
Edmund covers his eyes in frustration, insisting they have no choice but to make it work.
A heavy silence falls over the siblings as they sit together, burdened by their shared secret.
Isaac breaks the silence by tentatively asking if there is a way to reattach his limb.
Isaac looks shocked and panicked as he gestures toward his missing arm while questioning his condition.
Emily bends down to retrieve the severed hand, explaining that their undead bodies are extremely fragile. Approaching her brother, Emily holds his arm and warns him that the reattachment might be painful.
Emily bites her finger and uses her magical blood to begin the dark ritual of reattachment. A purple magical aura surges as Emily binds Isaac's severed hand back onto his arm stump. Bright sparks fly as the dark magic successfully fuses the dead flesh back together again. Isaac stares in awe as he flexes his reattached hand, marveling at his sister's incredible power.
Emily reflects on her identity as a dark mage, feeling the weight of her forbidden magic.
Gripping her dress, she wonders if revealing her secret even to her family was a mistake.
Edmund leans forward and places a reassuring hand on the table to address his younger sister.
Edmund praises Emily for her efforts, causing her to look up with tearful and surprised eyes. He comforts her by patting her head, claiming her magic is a grace and family proof.
Edmund gives his sister a rare and warm smile, fully accepting her and her dark abilities.
Emily beams with relief and happiness as her brother continues to offer her silent support.
Night falls over the estate, but the siblings remain in the study to discuss their enemies. Edmund warns that the assassins who used explosives on the carriage will certainly return for them.
Isaac ponders their potential enemies, listing the House of Duke Ukmon or the Belond royal family.
The image of a religious figure suggests that the Holy See might be behind the assassination.
Edmund decides to submit a leave of absence for everyone to avoid further attempts on them.
Edmund sighs, noting that as beings already dead, they no longer have the luxury of fatigue.
The massive doors to the study remain closed, sealing in the dark secrets of the siblings. Emily steps out into the hallway and exhales deeply, relieved that the tense meeting has ended.
A mocking voice laughs within a dark void at the idea of her magic being divine.
Emily asks Lev which idiot would dare to call her forbidden dark magic a grace from God. Sitting on the bed, Lev notes that the siblings are fundamentally different from ordinary living beings. The cat accuses Emily of speaking shamelessly about God's grace despite knowing the grim truth.
In the quiet of the night, Lev asks Emily how she truly feels about her situation.
Emily stands alone in the moonlight, her expression unreadable as she contemplates the cat's question.
Lev mocks her power, asking if she intends to conquer the entire continent with her abilities.
The cat continues his taunts about her omnipotent power while a spectral skull appears behind him.
Emily remains silent, looking down at the black cat as he continues to push for answers.
She questions why a powerful being like Lev would ever choose to contract with her.
Lev yells back that she was the one who summoned him and started their bond. The cat calls her pathetic for trying to avoid her fate after gaining immense dark power. A demonic figure is revealed as Lev's true form, contrasting with his small and cute appearance. Lev explains his curiosity about the bloodbath a human might bring with the power of death.
Emily laughs off the demon's bloodthirsty curiosity, teasing that his personality might make her attached.
She reminds Lev that as a novice mage, he is in no position to complain. The cat looks completely stunned and outraged by Emily's confident and dismissive retort to his complaints. Lev vows to break their contract as the scene shifts back to the academy under moonlight. The next morning, the siblings gather together in the bright sunlight outside the Grand Academy gates.
A family carriage waits as the siblings prepare to depart after finishing the day's formal events.
Andrea waves with a joyful smile, looking forward to spending more time with his beloved family. Emily waves goodbye with her siblings and the black cat after a successful day.
The family carriage rolls away as they leave the academy grounds for the estate.
The four siblings stand together outside, maintaining their public image of a happy family.
During a quiet dinner, Edmund breaks the heavy silence with an important family announcement.
Edmund addresses their condition, noting they no longer sleep and their physical bodies break easily.
Yulia observes that her senses are fading, finding she can only taste intense spiciness. The siblings discuss their submitted leave requests, noting their current states make professional work dangerous. Confident in their status, Edmund reassures his siblings that their absence requests will be granted.
Emily decides she must go in personally to speak with her superiors and secure approval.
Isaac emphasizes the importance of her leave being approved so she can assist them later.
Isaac suggests that higher-level dark magic might eventually be capable of fully restoring their bodies.
Isaac promises to find a dark grimoire for Emily to use while practicing her magic. The siblings reflect on the gravity of the temporary plan they constructed through the night.
An urgent report from outside interrupts their private meeting, causing the siblings to go silent.
Isaac identifies the voice as the head butler and asks what news requires such urgency.
The butler enters with shocking news that Isaac's request for leave has been flatly denied.
Furious, Edmund demands an explanation for why the traditional customs of their house were ignored.
The butler reveals the denial came from a direct order issued by the Crown Prince.
Jamie greets Emily at the palace, noticing she has arrived much later than her usual.
Emily apologizes for her lateness, claiming she was preoccupied with urgent matters at home.
Jamie asks for more details about the situation that kept Emily away from her duties. Emily makes excuses about her brother's behavior before asking where the Crown Prince is located.
Jamie informs her that the prince is currently busy but will be available very soon.
Emily and Jamie bow respectfully as a powerful figure approaches them in the grand corridor.
The Crown Prince appears, looking commanding with his sharp features and dark, ornate formal attire.
Taking a seat, the Crown Prince dismisses the formalities and tells everyone to resume work.
Tension builds as Emily prepares to make a difficult request of the high-ranking royal.
Emily steps forward to address the Crown Prince, stating she has something important to report.
The Crown Prince looks up from his desk, asking Emily to state her business. Emily tentatively asks for a leave of absence, hoping to stay home with her siblings. Surprised, the Crown Prince notes her rare request, wondering why such a diligent worker needs time off.
He mentions that Sir Isaac also submitted a similar request, noting the strange family coincidence.
The Crown Prince probes further, asking if some specific trouble has occurred at the Walker home.
Emily panics and claims they simply planned a family vacation, offering to use accrued time.
The Crown Prince considers her request, remaining silent for a moment as he tops his arm.
Emily's heart sinks as the Crown Prince declares that her request for leave will be difficult.
He explains that the knights must remain on high alert for an undisclosed upcoming mission.
The prince concludes that since Isaac must work, a family vacation is out of the question.
Emily stands in shock, realizing her plan to keep her family hidden is falling apart.
She decides she must remain at the palace to watch over Isaac and prevent any accidents. As Emily agrees to postpone her leave, Werner bursts in with an urgent message.
Werner frantically reports that Isaac is currently involved in a situation down at the barracks. Horrified, Emily imagines Isaac's undead form being exposed to everyone, fearing their secret is out.
Pure panic sets in as she wonders if her brother's true identity has already been discovered.
A grand view of the palace highlights the high stakes of their secret being revealed. A crowd of knights gathers at the training grounds, buzzing with anticipation over an event. Emily fears the worst, worrying that her siblings' status as undead beings is about to be revealed.
Werner clarifies the commotion, announcing that Sir Isaac and Sir Harold are about to duel.
The Crown Prince reacts with surprise to the news of a duel between his strongest mates.
Werner explains the excitement, noting that the Order has long wondered who would win such a match.
Werner informs Emily that he intends to place his bet on Harold for the upcoming match.
Werner apologizes to Emily, explaining that he supported Isaac during their previous encounter at the academy. Emily notes that things will be fine as long as the Crown Prince avoids watching the duel.
The Crown Prince orders an immediate departure to the grounds, prompting Emily to urge him along.
Emily reflects on how the sudden excitement of a duel is very typical for energetic young knights.
Werner invites Emily to join them at the training grounds to witness the spectacle of the fight.
Realizing she must stop the duel, Emily reluctantly agrees to accompany the group to the arena.
Isaac and Harold begin their practice match, clashing wooden swords on the training grounds as spectators watch.
Isaac regrets engaging Harold after the man insults Emily by calling her a useless family failure.
Harold continues his insults while Isaac fumes, determined to protect his sister's reputation from the mockery.
The referee signals for the knights to prepare as the sparring match is about to begin.
Emily and the Crown Prince take their seats to observe the two combatants from the spectator stand.
Noticing Isaac's poor performance, the Crown Prince asks Emily if her brother is feeling unwell today.
Emily panics and quickly corrects her address to the prince before attending to his sudden question.
She invents a lie about Isaac being sick after eating something bad over the past few days.
Werner accepts the excuse, noting that Isaac's pale complexion makes the claim of illness seem very plausible.
Members of the watching crowd begin shifting their bets toward Harold's victory after seeing Isaac state.
The referee yells for the duel to begin in earnest as the two combatants face off.
Harold lunges at Isaac with a loud battle cry, initiating the first aggressive strike of the match.
Isaac successfully blocks the heavy blow, though the impact clearly strains his fragile and decaying form.
Harold grunts as the two knights lock their wooden swords in a fierce test of physical strength. Harold notices that Isaac's strikes are weak and his sword feels unusually light during the intense combat.
Emily realizes the danger and fears that Isaac's hand will detach if the intense fight continues further.
Panic grips Emily as she wonders if this situation is payback for ignoring her familiar's prior advice.
Emily commands a spirit to break the chandelier above the grounds to force a safe intervention.
Magical energy swirls around Emily as she covertly activates her dark magic to save her brother.
Harold taunts Isaac for his defensive movements and prepares to settle the match once and for all.
Isaac is horrified to see Harold utilizing a powerful aura for a simple practice sparring session. As Harold charges, the chandelier suddenly detaches and begins falling toward the unaware knights in the arena. A massive crashing sound echoes through the training grounds as the heavy light fixture impacts the floor.
Spectators express total shock and confusion as the light falls at such a critical match point. The crowd buzzes with questions regarding who won the match during the sudden haze of debris.
People assume Harold won after seeing him standing in the dust while a mysterious voice calls out. Harold is furious that Isaac saved him, demanding a rematch while Isaac suggests they stop the fight.
The Crown Prince declares the duel over, noting the miracle that no one was seriously injured.
The prince orders the knights to the infirmary and assigns cleaning duties to others at the grounds. Isaac takes the opportunity to request an early leave to see a physician for his apparent condition.
The Crown Prince grants the request and advises Isaac to return home and rest for his recovery.
Werner praises Emily for her concern while she reflects on the stress of the near exposure.
The group walks through the palace garden as the immediate crisis of the duel finally comes to an end.
Emily looks visibly anxious and uneasy while following the prince through the quiet palace garden.
The Crown Prince suddenly addresses Emily, causing her to react with a startled jump and a question. He observes that she seems to have noticed something about the earlier incident at the training grounds.
The prince discusses the divine blessing of her house and the knight's recent state of high alert. Emily stares blankly in utter confusion as she struggles to process the prince's cryptic words. The prince admits understanding her wish to stay uninvolved regarding her ability to read black magic remnants.
Stunned and terrified, Emily asked for clarification as her forbidden magic secret feels completely exposed to him.
Emily wonders if he discovered her secret and lured her to the garden for a confrontation.
Her internal panic grows as she questions the prince's true level of knowledge about her dark power.
Emily fears the prince intentionally lured her to the secluded garden specifically to reveal his hidden knowledge.
Emily feels cornered while standing between the Crown Prince and the silver-haired knight.
The knight places a comforting hand on Emily's shoulder to steady her nerves.
The Crown Prince clarifies that he had no intention of causing her any distress.
Emily privately reflects on the prince's frequent annoyance and his lack of situational awareness. Werner stands behind a nervous Emily as she tries to maintain her composure.
The prince recalls the duel, noting Emily's suspicious focus on the ceiling before the accident.
Werner reveals he has been investigating recent movements from underground dark magic users.
Divine artifacts in a containment vial shimmer with holy light against a grand backdrop.
Werner references the earlier training ground incident while checking his gear for further use.
Holding a dark orb, Werner admits he used the device to orchestrate the distraction. Emily panics internally upon being praised for her natural ability to detect forbidden energies. Werner grasps Emily's hands enthusiastically, placing his full trust in her supposed holy gift.
Emily feels immense pressure as everyone looks at her with misplaced hope for her assistance.
Overwhelmed, Emily realizes the irony of being a dark mage asked to hunt her own kind.
Emily struggles to maintain her facade, feeling unqualified for such a dangerous and high-stakes task.
The Crown Prince offers Emily extra pay for taking on these hazardous special duties.
Motivated by the compensation, Emily immediately accepts the mission, much to Werner's delight.
Werner gives an enthusiastic thumbs up, fully confident in Emily's new role as their secret weapon.
Bright sunlight streams into the lavishly decorated imperial office, highlighting its golden architectural details. Seated together, the group discusses the prince's claim regarding the return of dark magic users.
The Crown Prince explains that physical evidence of dark magic activity has finally been recovered.
A vision of a distant, cursed island serves as a reminder of the historical exile.
The prince explains how 3 centuries of peace led to the erosion of the church's influence.
A map reveals imperial territories that were long ago set aside for monitoring magical threats.
The Grand White Palace towers over the city as the deadline for a centennial treaty nears.
Emily asks if the Empire intends to seize control of the disputed land this time.
The Crown Prince confirms her suspicion, signaling a major shift in imperial and religious relations.
Emily looks bewildered as she tries to grasp the political complexities of the coming conflict.
Werner notes that the current lack of verifiable threats makes their political maneuver quite difficult.
Shadows loom as the group acknowledges that dark mages are nearly impossible for commoners to identify.
A specialized detection orb rests on the table used to identify traces of forbidden energy.
Werner points out that they cannot easily disprove any false claims made by the church.
Emily realizes the investigation is more about political leverage than an actual imminent magical threat.
She secretly feels relieved that the royals lack the innate power to detect her true nature. Emily spits out her tea in shock when Werner identifies the location of the latest trace.
Werner expresses concern as Emily coughs violently from the sudden news regarding the nearby mountains.
Emily wipes her face, realizing the reported dark magic activity is dangerously close to her home.
Werner explains the strategic importance of the mountain range and the risk to traveling merchants.
Emily worries about her younger brother, who frequently travels near that specific mountain route.
Werner attempts to reassure Emily by noting the trace was found away from the main road.
Werner recalls the detection device reacting strongly during his personal inspection of the mountain site.
The Crown Prince dismisses Emily, ordering her to go home and prepare for their journey.
He instructs her to confirm the authenticity of the magical traces early the next morning. Emily reminds the prince that tomorrow is a scheduled holiday meant for rest and recovery.
The prince argues that traveling on a holiday is the best way to avoid unwanted attention.
Emily smiles through her frustration, privately labeling the prince as a demanding and inconsiderate superior.
The palace stands quiet and majestic under a vast, star-filled sky as the night deepens.
Exhausted from the day's stress, Emily collapses onto her bed and lets out a heavy sigh.
She worries about the near exposure of Isaac's condition and her own lack of magical mastery.
Emily calls out for her familiar, Lev, as she prepares to face the coming day's challenges.
Lev yawns on his golden pattern pillow and asks why Emily has summoned him back.
The black cat stares forward with intense golden eyes as a quiet moment passes.
Lev asks if Emily is finally ready to receive the magnificent entity's great teachings.
Emily sits on her bed and admits she is a little ready for him.
Lev licks his paw and remarks that her siblings wouldn't look so pathetic if she listened. Emily feels uncertain, but admits she desperately needs the power the entity offers her.
Emily asks if black magic can permanently strengthen someone like Isaac and his injured wrist. Lev explains the only way to keep a human corpse from rotting and weakening further. The black cat maintains a smug and focused expression while teaching Emily dark magical theory.
Emily looks shocked as Lev reveals that she must offer a sacrifice for the magic. The demonic entity specifies that the required sacrifice must be a freshly dead human corpse.
Lev reiterates the necessity of a sacrifice while Emily stares at him in stunned silence.
The cat emphasizes that the human corpse used for the spell must be extremely fresh. Picturing a bloodied Isaac, Emily asks if there is absolutely no other alternative possible.
Lev says she must learn mana manipulation instead, though warns it takes considerable time.
The cat identifies Emily as a natural-born black magician who is already a contractor. Lev points out that Emily has been aware of the mana in her since childhood. The entity explains that magic manifestation differs significantly from one black magician to another.
Lev lists various magical skills and tells Emily to start by practicing pure mana extraction.
The black cat grins as Emily considers the path of learning difficult mana manipulation. Lev offers the sacrifice choice again, prompting Emily to ask for detailed training instructions.
Emily appears overwhelmed and physically drained by the weight of her current magical training.
A close-up of Emily's eyes shows her focus and the fear beneath her resolve. A carriage travels along a sunlit forest road as the next business trip begins. Inside the carriage, Hazel advises Emily to keep resting since they have not arrived.
Emily apologizes for her fatigue, explaining she was unable to sleep well last night.
Hazel smiles while Claude sits silently in the corner of the carriage during their journey. Claude looks forward with a sharp and serious gaze as they approach the location. Emily reflects on how Lev's intense mana-draining training sessions yesterday left her completely exhausted.
The girl is startled as the carriage suddenly comes to a stop in the woods.
A voice from outside the carriage announces their arrival at the suspicious forest location. Hazel gallantly assists Emily out of the carriage as they begin their investigation together. The ground is littered with bloodstains and debris, signaling a violent struggle occurred recently. Emily finds the mess suspicious and points out a mysterious red glow on the ground. Hazel examines a glowing orb and confirms no reports were made to the nearby guards. Claude notes the suspicious absence of patients at the clinic despite the clear disaster signs.
Investigating the bloodstains, Claude finds no bodies but detects unmistakable traces of black magic.
Claude suspects citizens were taken for black magic, which Emily privately realizes is half correct. Claude asks if Emily sees anything, but the girl finds it difficult to answer.
Emily worries that speaking up will prove the existence of black magicians and cause scandal.
Emily suddenly tells everyone to wait as she senses a presence in the surrounding trees. Claude asks if she felt something too, and Emily confirms an unwelcome presence is nearby.
Hazel detects an unwelcome guest and prepares to defend the group with his sword.
Claude tells Emily not to stray far from him, and she quickly agrees to stab.
Hazel prepares his blade and tells Claude and Emily to wait safely in the carriage. Claude asks if Hazel can handle 5 enemies alone as the shadows begin to move.
Hazel confirms he can handle them, and Claude decides to leave the matter to him.
Claude and Emily retreat to the carriage as the sound of a battle starts outside.
Claude sits quietly in the carriage while the sounds of a struggle echo nearby.
Claude tells Emily there is no need to worry while she listens to the fight. The Crown Prince ponders the source of a recent information leak while acknowledging frequent uninvited guests. He realizes the enemy has moved, resenting the rise of a heretic son to the throne. A grand portrait capturing the prince's regal and stern presence hangs in the palace hall.
The imperial crown rests as a symbol of the heavy burden and authority he carries.
He recalls how religious differences involving the former empress from Dihil previously caused significant state conflicts.
The carriage comes to a halt in a secluded, quiet forest as the investigation begins.
Steeling himself for what lies ahead, the prince orders the group to proceed forward.
Emily notes the prince's visible exhaustion, realizing that even royalty possesses human limitations and fatigue.
A sudden, sharp scent of blood hits Emily, causing her to reel back in visceral shock.
Werner quickly shields Emily's eyes, advising her that the grisly scene is unfit for her sight. The prince learns the attackers committed suicide, making interrogation impossible and leading him to abandon the search.
Despite the protection, Emily catches a glimpse of the carnage, her eyes wide with mounting dread.
After assessing the situation, the prince instructs Werner to bury the bodies to keep the incident secret. Werner reveals he brought a shovel specifically for such an occasion, shocking Emily with his grim foresight.
As she stares at a corpse, Emily secretly laments the loss of potentially valuable magical offerings.
She struggles with the internal conflict of witnessing wasted resources that could fuel her forbidden dark magic.
The lifeless body of an assassin lies sprawled across the grass, surrounded by fresh pools of blood.
Werner calls out to Emily, breaking her trance-like state as she lingers over the deceased enemies.
Emily feigns dizziness as an excuse for her odd behavior and requests to wait in the carriage.
The prince turns his sharp gaze toward Emily, his expression unreadable and heavy with hidden suspicion. He asks if she can detect any lingering traces of black magic at the scene of the attack.
Werner intercedes, asking the prince to allow Emily time to recover from the shock of seeing corpses. The prince remains silent, his red eyes focused intently, as if dissecting every detail of Emily's reaction. Emily panics internally, unable to decipher the true intentions behind the prince's cold and calculating stare.
Realizing she is cornered, Emily confirms that she can indeed sense dark magic within the quiet forest.
She worries she made the wrong choice, especially since she actually feels no magical remnants at all.
The prince acknowledges her confirmation, his suspicions about the nature of the event seemingly validated by her. He deduces that the entire accident was a calculated trap by the pontificate meant to lure him out.
Werner questions the certainty of this claim, seeking proof that the church orchestrated the lethal ambush.
The prince exposes a sacred mark on the corpse's neck, identifying the attackers as members of the church.
He explains that the mark's rapid fading after death makes it useless as legal evidence in court.
Werner notes the enemy's cleverness in leaving a clear warning while simultaneously destroying any incriminating physical proof.
With the investigation concluded, the prince decides it is time for the group to return home.
Emily hesitates, asking what will become of the bodies left behind in the secluded woods. Werner assures her they will provide a temporary burial and let a cleanup crew handle the rest. Emily walks away while grieving the missed chance to utilize the corpses for her own magical progression.
She worries about finding another suitable body for her experiments if she leaves this one behind now.
Time passes as the scene fades into a swirl of cold, shifting particles and distant memories.
History recounts how a period of prosperity followed the Great Holy War, yet darkness remained ever present.
Noble desire for excitement created a lucrative market for underground merchants operating in the city's shadows.
This corruption allowed a massive black market to flourish in the hidden underbelly of the Belond Empire.
The imperial family remains unable to dismantle the network because its wealth is entwined with powerful nobles.
Donald, the black market guildmaster, revels in his unchecked power over his vast, profitable criminal playground.
The heavy doors of the guildmaster's private office creak open, interrupting his moment of leisure. An assistant informs Donald that an unannounced guest has arrived at the guild looking for him.
Annoyed, Donald questions why he should see anyone when he clearly has no scheduled appointments today.
He angrily refuses to grant the visitor even a single minute of his time, demanding they leave.
The assistant stammers as a hooded figure and Emily boldly enter the room without further invitation.
The prince lowers his hood and sharply criticizes Donald for his poor treatment of royal guests.
Donald leaps to his feet in sheer terror as he recognizes the formidable presence of the crown prince.
Donald observes the fine material of the visitor's robe, suspecting an elite presence. Noticing designer shoes, Donald greets the noble guests with sudden and extreme enthusiasm.
Emily thinks about her brother's knowledge of the guild as Donald questions their visit.
The Crown Prince reflects on the wisdom of leaving the corpse untouched to avoid detection.
Alone in his thoughts, the prince ponders his unusual and desperate need for a corpse.
The prince orders Emily to put her coat back on before they move to handle matters.
The group acknowledges they must handle the situation alone as a dark energy swirls.
Hooded and serious, the Crown Prince prepares to confront Donald with a secret item.
The prince asks Donald if he recognizes the item he is about to reveal.
Donald reels in shock at the sight of the item presented by the prince.
A close-up reveals the ancient benefactor's medallion, a symbol of high authority and debt.
Donald confirms the medallion's history, noting the sacred promise to grant any requested favor.
Donald recalls how the guild's founder was aided by a benefactor who stole their ledger.
The prince notes that the stolen ledger contains damaging evidence regarding the deposed empress's funding.
Donald asks what the prince desires while the prince praises his quick understanding.
Donald considers the loss acceptable as long as he can protect the guild's secrets.
Standing at his desk, the Crown Prince bluntly demands a human corpse from Donald.
Donald misinterprets the request as a private loan and offers a deal with high interest. The prince clarifies that he specifically requires a human corpse, leaving Donald in disbelief.
Donald warns that involvement with black magic and corpses leads to immediate summary execution.
He explains that modern cremation practices have left the world without any public cemeteries.
Donald expresses fear of being overheard while questioning the purpose of the prince's request.
The prince draws a sword, forcing Donald to choose between compliance and certain death.
He hands Donald a communication orb and demands the corpse be delivered this week. The prince departs, stating he is counting on Donald, who is left visibly shaken.
Emily encourages Donald to do his best as she follows the prince out.
Left alone, Donald weeps in terror over the impossible and dangerous task he accepted. A loud, pained scream echoes from the guild office into the quiet night air.
Emily worries about Donald's well-being as they walk away from the black market.
The duo walks through a bustling nighttime marketplace, surrounded by commoners and merchants.
Emily notes the familiarity of the marketplace and asks if the prince visits often. The prince admits he previously visited this area several times while accompanying Isaac. A tender moment occurs as the prince and Emily walk hand in hand through the crowd.
The prince addresses Emily directly as they continue their walk under the starlit sky.
He confronts Emily about the many secrets she has been keeping from him lately.
The prince notes that Emily has never been one to open up about her feelings.
He admits he was completely wrong to think he understood everything happening in his mansion.
The prince suggests that family should be a source of support during difficult times. Emily recalls her magical secret as the prince encourages her not to hold back.
Emily smiles warmly, though she seems to miss the deeper meaning of his offer.
Frustrated, the prince realizes Emily did not understand a single word of his sentiment. Emily apologizes for hiding things, remaining oblivious to the prince's attempt at connection.
The prince touches his forehead in frustration as a loud commotion interrupts their conversation.
A horse panics in the street, causing a merchant to spill crates of apples.
The frantic horseman tries to settle the animal while apologizing for the sudden chaos.
Emily watches as the man scrambles to collect the spilled apples from the cobblestones.
Thinking she sees her brother, Emily asks if he is okay after almost being crushed.
Emily looks around in confusion as the man she was addressing suddenly vanishes.
She finds herself standing alone in an oppressive darkness, feeling abandoned and deeply unsettled.
Emily frantically wonders where the man went as her surroundings fade into a void.
Emily vents her frustration over her restless zombie experiments that refuse to stay still.
A mysterious blue-haired man appears behind Emily, asking if she has lost her way. Emily grows suspicious of the hooded man, hoping he won't act while others are watching.
Emily feigns distress about being lost and asks the man what his business is there.
Leaning in closely, the blue-haired man expresses curiosity about a specific detail regarding her past.
He unsettlingly asks how she survived the past tragedy where everyone else supposedly perished. Stunned into silence, Emily reels as the man's cryptic question triggers a sense of dread.
Emily stands frozen as a voice calls her name while the mysterious figure suddenly vanishes. Werner finds Emily in the market, expressing relief after searching everywhere for her missing presence.
Confused, Emily insists that Werner was the one who vanished, glancing back at the empty street.
Werner notices her startled expression and asks what is wrong as she stares into the crowd.
Emily asks Werner if he saw the man she was just addressing, but he only saw passersby.
Emily forces a smile and dismisses the encounter as nothing while her mind continues to race.
A dark and heavy atmosphere lingers as the scene shifts away from the bustling nighttime market.
Back in her chambers, Emily asks the black cat if anyone else witnessed the carriage accident.
The cat indignantly defends its skills, assuring her that it personally confirmed the scene was empty.
Emily remains unsettled, noting that the strange man spoke as if he had witnessed the crash.
Perceiving her distress, the cat asks what is troubling her regarding the encounter in the market. Emily recounts meeting the strange man who seemed to know her identity and the carriage accident. The cat suggests the man might be a skilled practitioner capable of sensing the lingering death.
It explains that such a feat is possible for an elite dark mage or a high priest.
The cat questions if the cathedral holds a grudge, calling the priests gloomy and predictable bastards.
Emily reasons that her nature as a dark mage would have allowed her to detect a priest.
The cat reveals that some are trained to hide holy energy, shocking Emily with the possibility.
The cat notes that Emily herself is naturally adept at suppressing her immense internal mana reserves.
It explains her powers evolved for survival, though this suppression hinders her ability to wield mana.
The cat offers a judgmental stare as Emily processes the implications of her hidden potential.
Emily grows annoyed while the cat feigns offense at being treated like a nagging nuisance. Werner waits in the study with his arms crossed, appearing ready for the dangerous task ahead.
A wide shot reveals multiple coffins gathered in a room as the ritual preparations finish. Emily stands over a coffin, signaling that all preparations for her necromancy experiment are complete.
Narration highlights Donald the merchant's impressive skills despite his deceptively simple and unassuming name.
The group remains gathered around the coffins in heavy silence as the final moment approaches. A pink-haired woman worries about the lethal consequences if their illicit activities are ever discovered.
Werner bluntly confirms that discovery would mean the complete annihilation of all the families involved.
Emily is taken aback by his casualness while he explains the room is secured and locked.
Emily reviews her special zombie recipe, hoping her preparations of blood and corpses are sufficient. Stealing her resolve, Emily takes a deep breath and announces she is ready to begin.
Werner identifies Isaac as the most urgent priority, urging Emily to attempt the resurrection on him.
Emily stands before Isaac's coffin and declares the start of the forbidden dark magic ritual. Emily slices her hand with a ritual knife, allowing her blood to fuel the magic circle.
A massive glowing magic circle erupts on the floor, bathing the room in intense purple light.
Emily channels her power with closed eyes while Werner watches the violent surge of magical energy. Brilliant light and particles swirl around the corpse in the coffin as the ritual reaches peak intensity.
Werner stands firm, observing the chaotic display of dark mana as it binds to the body.
The force of the ritual blows papers and books around as someone calls out in concern. Emily shields herself from the magical debris and wind generated by the powerful, unstable energy. She cries out Isaac's name while the room is consumed by a vortex of red magic. As the magic settles, Emily and Werner stand in the silence of the now altered room.
Looking at the result, Werner notes a strange anomaly as he addresses a visibly weary Emily.
The resurrected man experiences a strange, intense thirst that feels more powerful than before.
A voice asks if he simply requires water to quench his sudden, unusual thirst. Ed explains his thirst is of a different nature while clutching his head mane.
His condition stabilizes and he admits to feeling much better after the initial magical surge.
Clenching his fist, Ed believes he can manage as long as he avoids physical conflict.
Emily questions if the group plans to continue their current course of action for today.
Werner suggests monitoring Isaac's progress first, wary of unknown reinforcements that might have arrived.
Emily asks for instructions regarding the disposal of the additional corpse remaining in the room.
Werner decides the basement is the best location for storing the body out of sight.
Ed and Emily are shocked to learn that a basement exists within the mansion's layout.
Werner explains it serves as an emergency safe house designed specifically for unexpected contingencies.
He notes the basement's cool temperature makes it the ideal place for preserving a corpse.
Ed asks for the exact location as Werner activates a hidden mechanism on a pedestal.
The group watches in silence as a heavy rumbling sound echoes through the stone room.
Werner reveals the entrance to the secret passage hidden behind a moving stone wall.
Ed expresses amazement at the discovery of a secret passage within their own family home.
He volunteers to move the heavy coffin into the hidden basement as quickly as possible. Ed kicks a book aside, remarking that such secret rooms usually only exist in stories. He trips, causing the coffin to crash open and spill the corpse onto the floor.
A woman screams in horror, demanding to know what he is doing after the clumsy accident.
Ed laughs nervously while apologizing, promising to clean up the spilled remains immediately.
Emily freezes in shock as she notices a specific detail on the fallen body's skin.
A close-up reveals a distinct stigmata mark engraved on the back of the corpse's neck.
Werner observes the mark, noting it will soon fade into an unidentifiable stain after death. Emily looks at him with growing dread, realizing the dangerous implications of the mark's presence.
Through a communication orb, Donald brags about the high quality of the corpse he provided. He explains an herbalist found the body in the forbidden Loudon Mountains for a profit. The group realizes in terror that they have stolen an assassin belonging to the Crown Prince. Werner warns that the Imperial disposal team has likely already reported the missing body.
Jamie panics about their impending ruin, but Werner urges her not to jump to conclusions.
He admits Emily will be the primary suspect due to her past and known abilities. Werner predicts the authorities will first attempt to gauge Emily's reaction before taking direct action. He asks if she can handle the pressure, and Emily confidently reassures him. She smiles, privately confident that her specialty lies in manipulating others through clever words. The scene shifts to the grand and imposing exterior of the Imperial Palace. Jamie asks Emily how she spent her weekend while they prepare for their official duties. Emily claims she spent time with family before asking Jamie about her own weekend activities.
Jamie leans in to share a rumor, catching Emily's attention with her secretive town.
Emily is stunned to hear that the Papal State is sending an official representative. The sunlight gleams off the white spires and domes of the sprawling Imperial Palace complex.
Emily wonders why the Papal State would choose this specific time to visit the palace.
Jamie dismisses the concern, noting the unpredictability of high-ranking nobles and their secret agendas.
The heavy doors of the office click open as someone enters the workspace. The staff stands and bows as they formally greet the Crown Prince's arrival.
Werner enters the room and signals for everyone to continue with their assigned paperwork.
Emily speculates if the visit concerns the assassination plot or the stolen black market corpses. A gloved hand places a heavy stock of documents on Emily's desk for review.
Emily looks up in confusion as she realizes the knight has more to say.
Lark informs her that the prince has identified several matters that require immediate revision. Emily finds a secret note instructing her to meet at Marlin Palace during lunchtime. An ornate white building stands under a clear sky above a lavish spread of food.
Werner, Emily, and the dark-haired man sit around a large table during a formal dinner.
Werner asks Emily if the meal was to her liking as they finish their dinner.
Emily pauses her eating to confirm that she enjoyed the meal very much and thanks him.
She politely asked Werner for the reason he summoned her here to meet with him separately.
The dark-haired man sets down his fork and reveals that the bodies have suddenly disappeared.
He explains that the cleanup team deployed to the mountains found no trace of the remains.
As a dessert plate is shown, he asks if the pontificate could have retrieved the corpses.
The man dismisses the idea, arguing the corpses were not important enough for an unnecessary fight. He notes only the three of them know the location before addressing Emily as lady.
The dark-haired man directly asks Emily if she has spoken to anyone about that day's events.
Emily collapses to her knees, tearfully insisting she knows nothing and would never speak of it.
Inwardly, she sighs while reflecting on the fact that nothing in this world comes easily. Werner tells Emily to rise, explaining he only meant to confirm facts, not to interrogate her.
Inwardly, Emily recognizes his suspicion, realizing he called her there specifically to grill her for information.
Emily tearfully asks how she can prove her innocence regarding a matter she knows nothing about.
The dark-haired man remains silent and observant as he watches Emily's emotional display of distress.
Werner hands Emily a handkerchief and urges her to calm down and take her seat again.
Wiping her tears, Emily claims she was simply startled by the sudden and intense conversation topic.
The man admits the pontificate may have taken them while Emily celebrates passing a difficult hurdle.
Emily tells Werner she will return his handkerchief soon along with the one from last time.
Werner smiles kindly and tells Emily that there is no need to return the handkerchiefs. Emily insists on returning them, maintaining her polite facade while a faint blush colors her cheeks.
She resolves to place a dark magic spell on the handkerchief as a secret insurance measure.
Sunlight bathes the grand white palace as the scene shifts to a quiet afternoon setting.
A close-up shows Emily's pale hands working carefully on a delicate piece of floral embroidery.
Emily sits alone on a blue sofa, focused on her needlework in a sunlit room.
Riley approaches Emily and asks if there is something currently troubling her during her quiet work.
Riley gazes at Emily with a soft, knowing smile while waiting for the young lady's response.
Emily dismisses the concern, but Riley notes that Emily always embroiders in silence when she worries.
Riley mentions that Emily and the young master have been speaking privately more often lately.
She observes that Emily seems to be hiding a matter that is quite difficult to discuss.
Emily looks away with a gentle smile and quietly confirms that Riley is correct.
A black cat walks by as Riley asks Emily to let her know if she needs help.
Riley notes Emily's tendency to shoulder every burden alone while the cat jumps onto the sofa. Riley mentions she originally came to deliver something but got sidetracked by their deep conversation. A close-up shows hands holding a white envelope sealed with a bright red wax stamp. Emily realizes a woman is returning after completing her mandatory service at the prestigious pontificate. The back of a blonde-haired individual is shown against a bright and flowery background. The lower portion of a white outfit is visible as petals drift through the air.
Emily sits silently with the letter in her hands while the black cat sleeps nearby. Narration highlights that the returning woman is a holy knight serving the high-ranking pontificate.
A white carriage arrives at the estate grounds, signaling the arrival of a new guest. Emily stands near the entrance as someone begins to step down from the horse-drawn carriage.
A handsome blonde man with yellow eyes and a friendly smile steps into the sunlight. He pulls Emily into a cheerful embrace, apologizing for taking much longer to return than expected. Standing by the horses, he asks if any weird guys bothered her while he was away.
Emily smiles warmly and reassures the man that nothing was particularly difficult during his absence.
In a chibi-style panel, the blonde man pouts while Emily stands behind him.
He grumbles that she always does whatever she wants, admitting he wasn't expecting much anyway.
The blonde man inquires about her siblings while Emily notes everyone is currently busy.
Emily drinks her tea before asking the blonde man about his specific dispatch location.
While eating a cookie, the blonde man reveals he is going to Siri Tree Fortification. Emily questions if he should be sharing such potentially confidential information with her.
Emily smiles politely despite the growing tension she feels during their conversation.
The blonde man reflects on his happiness at her trust and his internal heavy heart.
As the man drinks tea, he admits his internal discomfort while Emily senses his holy power.
Ed clenches his teeth in pain as a strange sensation overwhelms his body. A close-up shows Ed's hand trembling violently as he struggles to maintain control. Ed admits the difficulty of the situation while Yulia lies incapacitated on the floor.
Ed explains the physical toll of facing high-ranking holy figures like paladins or clerics directly.
Yulia wonders why Emily requested her presence at the estate given the current dangerous circumstances.
Werner justifies the meeting location to avoid suspicion as Yulia laments their current situation.
Werner urges her to endure a bit longer, fearing a disaster if they are seen outside.
Werner suggests following Isaac's example of body reinforcement and plans to consult Emily tomorrow.
Ed senses a shift in the room and turns his attention toward Isaac's preference. A close-up reveals someone's hands tightly balled into fists as dark energy begins to surge.
Werner and Yulia look on in horror as they witness a terrifying change in Ed.
Ed's eyes glow red as he questions the nature of the power currently manifesting.
Werner stares in shock as the situation takes a sudden and uncontrollable turn.
A dark aura fills the space as a character expresses frustration at the situation. Emily reacts with shock as a loud noise from elsewhere in the house interrupts them.
The blonde man asks if anyone else is home, and Emily confirms others are present.
Emily claims Yulia is busy with alchemy experiments to explain away the suspicious crashing sounds.
Emily and the blonde man sit together while she attempts to maintain composure.
Emily feels a brief sense of relief when the house finally falls silent again.
Emily and the blonde man are startled by an alarming visual disturbance at the window. Emily reacts with visible shock, tea spilling from her mouth as she stares in horror. The blonde man notices her sudden distress and immediately asks what is wrong. Emily hides her panic by suggesting she will have to scold Yulia for the disruption.
Emily internally resolves to do whatever is necessary to avoid getting caught in this.
The blonde man teasingly observes that she is far too soft on her twin sister.
He recalls how Yulia acted when she awakened her ability and notes Emily's soft behavior.
The blonde man's gaze becomes more focused as he evaluates Emery's strange behavior. Emily laughs nervously while privately urging the others not to look back at the room.
Emily suggests taking a walk outside to escape the stuffy atmosphere of the drawing room.
She panics when he offers to open a window instead, desperately trying to stop him. Emily lunges forward and grabs the blonde man's hands to keep him away from the window.
Emily smiles while promising to hang out in her room together like old times. Emily displays an exaggeratedly cheerful expression while fighting to keep her composure.
Emily leads him toward her room, reminding him of their past sleepovers to build rapport. The blonde man is confused by her sudden urgency and asks why she is Russian. Emily moves quickly through the palace halls, her long pink skirts rustling.
Another loud crashing sound echoes through the hall, stopping both of them.
The blonde man becomes suspicious, questioning if only she and Yulia are in the house.
Emily quickly invents a lie about Yulia dropping a book to explain the loud noise.
The blonde man remains skeptical, noting the sound was far too loud for a book.
He suspects an intruder is present as Emily realizes the situation has become extremely dangerous.
Emily begins to walk again, her boots clicking softly on the polished floor.
The pair stands at the top of the stairs, looking down as tension mounts.
Hazel warns Emily to stay back as they approach the potentially dangerous situation behind the doors.
Emily calls out to stop Hazel, promising to reveal the truth before he opens the door.
Emily confesses that the alchemy story was a lie and begins to explain her brother's situation.
Emily stares in nervous anticipation as the situation reaches a tense and critical point. Werner pulls Ed into a tight, emotional embrace as roses and thorns frame the dramatic moment.
Hazel kicks the drawing room doors open, finding the scene inside even more shocking than expected.
Hazel is stunned by the sight, assuming Ed and Isaac share a hidden romantic relationship.
Emily celebrates the successful misunderstanding while reminding herself to maintain a somber expression to deceive Hazel.
Hazel questions his own childhood memories, admitting he never sensed such feelings between the two men before. Emily feigns sorrow while explaining that her silence was born from the fear of being misunderstood.
Hazel asks Ed to reveal himself, and Ed cautiously peeks out from behind the door.
Ed subtly pulls down his collar, displaying fresh scratches on his neck to support the romantic lie.
Hazel turns bright red and apologizes profusely for his rude interruption of their private, intimate time.
Hazel shuts the door, excusing the situation and advising the pair to be more careful next time. A heavy silence lingers as Hazel stands alone, processing the shocking revelation he just witnessed.
Emily and Hazel stand together in the hallway, the immediate threat of exposure finally past.
Werner reports that Hazel has finally left, much to the relief of the exhausted black-haired man.
The drawing room remains in total disarray, with furniture overturned following the frantic cover-up.
Emily stands alone in the quiet room, her expression unreadable as she reflects on the deception.
Yulia observes that Isaac underwent a sudden and terrifying change, making the situation difficult to understand.
Emily gently inspects Ed's face, asking if his reaction was specifically triggered by Hazel's presence.
Ed reacts with a deep blush as Emily touches him, clearly flustered by her sudden proximity.
Yulia watches the exchange with curiosity, wondering why Ed is behaving so strangely with Emily.
Lev the cat walks by as narration explains a familiar's instinct to obey its master.
The narration further explains that a familiar's duty is to protect its master from threats.
Emily picks up Lev while he complains about her attempting to distract him from the topic.
Emily theorizes that Hazel's divine power combined with her black magic caused Ed's violent reaction.
Ed asks if their nature as zombies causes them to lose control when near divine energy.
Emily resolves to hide the familiar's protective nature and notes Hazel will soon be dispatched.
Lev glares at Emily, noting that she still has not fixed her habitual lying and deception.
Lev finds it deplorable that his words are ignored, calling Emily a truly shameless liar.
Emily acknowledges that her life is built on lies, dismissing Lev's constant daily irritation with her.
Emily suggests they begin cleaning the room, confident that Lev will eventually calm down. Yulia and Ed sit together on the sofa, recovering from the intense events of the afternoon. Stretching her arms, Yulia sighs with relief that the exhausting social encounter is finally over.
Yulia finds the situation hilarious, noting they narrowly avoided trouble thanks to Hazel's misunderstanding.
Ed glares at a laughing Yulia, who insists correcting the misunderstanding would only make things weirder. The atmosphere shifts back to a serious tone as the siblings face another sudden interruption.
Emily reacts with shock as she realizes that their younger brother Andrea has suddenly arrived.
The group scrambles frantically to hide Isaac as Andrea approaches the messy drawing room. A child's small feet patter quickly across the floor as the new visitor finally arrives.
Andrea enters the room cheerfully, asking if everyone is present for his return home.
Emily and the others maintain an awkward smile while Isaac hides silently under the bed.
Andrea pauses and looks at his siblings with an expression of quiet curiosity and subtle confusion.
Flashing a bright, innocent smile, Andrea claims that nothing out of the ordinary has happened. Andrea abruptly announces he is going to his room to rest, leaving his siblings stunned.
Yulia and Ed stare in disbelief that their usually talkative brother left without a word.
Watching Andrea leave, Emily suspects that something very wrong occurred during his time at school. Lev scolds Emily for making such a huge fuss whenever her little brother is involved. A message confirms that the story continues in the upcoming chapters of the series.
A cheerful chibi character welcomes readers to the chapter while the setting shifts to a quiet drawing room.
Looking concerned, Werner asks his siblings if they believe Andrea might have fought with a friend.
Emily describes Andrea's selfless nature and argues that any conflict must have had a very good reason.
The pink-haired woman suggests that his recent change in behavior could potentially be attributed to a heartbreak.
Werner contemplates whether the underlying issue involves a trouble with friends or a new romantic interest.
Presenting a document, Werner reveals he just received a notice from the Academy regarding an observation day. A momentary vision of the past shows a woman and a child standing before the Academy gates.
Emily reacts with surprise, realizing the scheduled visit is coming up as soon as next week.
She notes that Isaac is currently unavailable due to royal orders and cannot be consulted for this trip.
Yulia mentions her work schedule is flexible, and Emily proposes they go together to investigate the situation.
The siblings celebrate their plan while a miniature Ed expresses loud frustration at being excluded from the trip. Well, that's one way to feel left out of the family road trip.
The Crown Prince looks up from a letter and confirms the upcoming Wednesday appointment for the Miss Ed.
Standing before his desk, Emily confirms the schedule and asks if a single day will be enough.
The Crown Prince ponders the plan while staring intensely at the pink-haired woman standing before him. He catches Emily off guard by asking if he can accompany her to the Academy for the event.
Startled, Emily questions why a royal figure would want to attend a simple parent observation day.
Smiling faintly, the Crown Prince explains that there is a specific matter he needs to investigate there.
Panic grips Emily as she internally worries that traces of black magic have been found at the school.
An oppressive atmosphere fills the space as dark splatters appear against a textured, static-filled background.
The scene shifts to the massive and ornate Academy grounds standing under a bright, clear sky. Crowds of onlookers gather as a grand carriage arrives at the prestigious school for the event.
The Crown Prince and Emily walk through the courtyard, drawing the immediate attention of everyone present.
The gathering crowd expresses shock and curiosity at the unexpected presence of the high-ranking royal.
People whisper amongst themselves, questioning the identity of the young lady from House Walker walking beside him.
The Crown Prince notes that he heard Duke Walker was supposed to be joining them as well. Emily explains that her siblings chose to move separately to avoid being an inconvenience to His Highness.
She suggests heading to the site where magic traces were found, but he focuses on another priority.
The Crown Prince rejects her initial suggestion with a serious look as confetti falls around them.
A close-up shows the man's hand reaching out toward the pink-haired woman in a gentle gesture.
He states they should prioritize seeing her younger sibling first, since it is observation day after all. He leads her toward the building while Emily remains frozen from the sudden, unexpected physical contact. They continue walking through the Academy halls as Emily tries to regain her composure under his lead.
Hazel follows closely behind the pair, whispering as he observes the interaction between the prince and Emily.
Emily admits to herself that she finds the Crown Prince's true motives and character impossible to decipher.
A door clicks open as they arrive at the entrance of a large, busy lecture hall.
The group looks down into a grand classroom filled with students and their observing family members. From her vantage point, Emily spots Andrea sitting among his classmates and paying attention to the lesson.
Andrea turns around and beams with joy upon noticing that his family has arrived to watch him. Emily waves back while the Crown Prince and Hazel watch the students with calm, serious expressions. She notes that Andrea's social life seems fine and notices a specific red-haired girl sitting near him. Emily wonders if Jury, the daughter of Duke Arkmone, might be the one Andrea is interested in.
A sudden voice calls out to Emily, snapping her back to the immediate reality of her surroundings.
The Crown Prince stands close to Emily as they observe the classroom dynamics and the students together.
A chilling sensation of black magic suddenly floods Emily's senses, causing her to stop and look around.
The black-haired man notices her sudden shift in demeanor and asks if she senses the energy too.
Emily identifies that the source of the strange, distant energy is located directly beneath the ground.
The Crown Prince confirms her suspicion, questioning if the source is hidden deep beneath the building.
Hazel warns that the building has a basement and digging recklessly could cause the structure to collapse.
He looks intently at the others while advising they hold off on a direct investigation for now.
Emily reacts with visible shock as she realizes the source of the energy is actually moving.
Emily observes the energy moving continuously, her eyes widening in realization.
The black-haired man asks if the source of the energy is getting farther away.
Emily explains that the opposite is happening and that the energy is heading toward them.
The Crown Prince calls out in surprise as Emily suddenly sprints down the hallway.
Bursting into the lecture hall, Emily grabs Andrea just as a massive impact occurs.
A violent shockwave erupts from the Academy building, sending debris flying into the air.
Dust and smoke fill the air as the force of the explosion settles.
Huddled on the floor, Emily frantically asks Andrea if he is hurt anywhere. Crying, the boy asks if he is safe and wonders where his siblings are.
Emily tells him to stay quiet while she prepares to investigate the source of the danger.
A massive, shadowy monster emerges from the darkness, looming over the terrified students.
Emily stares in horror, realized that a monster has appeared inside the Academy.
The beast lets out a deafening roar that shakes the very foundation of the building.
Emily remains frozen as she stares at the terrifying creature standing before her.
A student screams in terror as the monster begins its violent rampage through the hall.
The red-haired girl huddles on the stairs in fear while the monster growls nearby. Emily cries out in alarm as the beast focuses its attention on the children.
With a terrifying roar, the shadowy monster lunges forward with claws outstretched.
Emily dives across the floor, shielding the children with her own body.
The massive beast looms directly over Emily as she huddles on the ground.
Andrea points toward a safe exit, calling for his sister to follow him.
Emily asks Jury if she is okay while the children continue to weep in terror.
Emily tells the children to stay put, promising to return after leading the monster away. She instructs Andrea to count to 100 with his eyes closed until she returns.
Surrounding herself with purple energy, Emily resolves to buy time for the others to escape.
Emily begins to dodge the monster's lunges, successfully acting as bait for the beast. She narrowly avoids a lethal strike as she maneuvers through the ruined classroom. Blood splatters as the monster's claws strike Emily, causing her to groan in pain. The monster stops its attack and begins to sniff the air around Emily curiously. In a confusing shift, the monster licks Emily's head while she stands there baffled.
The Crown Prince suddenly arrives on the scene, declaring that the monster's rampage is over.
He stands with a glowing, holy sword, ready to strike down the shadowy creature.
Emily looks on in shock as she realizes the identity of her rescuer.
The beast growls as the Crown Prince charges forward to deliver a final blow.
Werner and Yulia arrive at the door with gifts, horrified by the sudden explosion.
Werner stands ready with his sword, prepared to defend his siblings from the threat.
The battle continues in the wreckage of the hall as the monster fights back.
Werner shouts for Yulia to be careful while surveying the chaotic scene before them. The floor cracks under the monster's weight as someone screams in the background. Werner and Yulia brace themselves as they witness the monster's final, desperate struggle.
Emily remains dazed, unable to comprehend the monster's sudden change in behavior toward her.
She realizes with a start that the monster recognized her as its own kind.
The prince dispatches the creature and orders his men to immediately secure the area.
The classroom stands in total disarray with broken furniture scattered across the floor. Werner calls Andrea over to his side, checking on the young boy's safety.
Andrea runs to Emily and hugs her tightly, sobbing with relief that she survived.
He tearfully promises to stop stealing candy and return the jewelry he took from her.
Emily looks on with a surprised expression as her brother continues his tearful confession.
Yulia and Werner watch the siblings' emotional reunion with quiet, concerned expressions.
Reflecting on the chaos, Emily notes that she is perfectly fine, if not slightly embarrassed.
Emily ponders how monsters could have appeared in the very center of the Academy grounds.
The Academy's majestic tower stands tall against the sky as the investigation into monsters begins.
The black-haired man says that the situation is suspicious while standing with his sisters.
The black-haired man says there is no need for formalities as he is greeted.
The black-haired man says the incident was no accident, but monsters were unleashed deliberately.
The black-haired man says he wants to know what His Highness is implying.
The black-haired man says he believes the incident was aimed at House Duke Walker.
The black-haired man says he believes the incident was aimed at the Walker Duchy.
The family stands together in the hallway, processing the prince's claim about the recent attack.
The black-haired man says they do not seem surprised and asks if they were suspecting.
The black-haired man says their family has long been one of the Empire's great pillars. He notes it is not strange people seek their lives.
The black-haired man says he wonders if this is more than just political schemes.
The black-haired man says he wants to know what the prince means by that.
The black-haired man says for Werner to show the group what they have prepared.
The silver-haired knight presents several grim photographs to the gathered members of the Walker family.
The black-haired man says he is shocked by what he sees in the provided photographs. The black-haired man says the first is Count Cecilia, the second Marquis Lucia, and lastly the Hermit of Frostwood Forest.
The black-haired man says they were descendants of the 13 prophets and are now all dead.
The black-haired man says he is shocked they all died within a single year. The black-haired man says an unidentified group is targeting descendants and Lady Walker has been assisting. The black-haired man says the matter is confidential, so he cannot officially assign direct protection. He notes doing so might make the enemies disappear.
The pink-haired woman says she wants to know if he plans to use them as bait. She notes that it does not sit well with her.
The black-haired man says his presence there should be more than enough. The other black-haired man says he is confused.
The black-haired man says he promises to do everything he can to ensure no harm. A sense of disbelief washes over the room at the prince's sudden offer to stay.
The black-haired man says the proposal is far too dangerous and asks the prince to reconsider. The pink-haired woman says she worries her identity might be exposed and mentions a corpse downstairs.
The black-haired man says he cannot sleep peacefully while people are in danger. He notes the sword was presented as a pledge of loyalty.
A moment of solemn resolve crosses the prince's face as he concludes his bold declaration.
The black-haired man says he will see Duke Walker again soon as he departs. The siblings are left standing in a daze following the prince's departure from the room. The prince and his aide walk away as the heavy reality of the arrangement sets in. The black-haired man says he wants to talk about the monster incident at the academy.
The black-haired man says he laments that he was not present when the tragedy occurred. The black-haired man says it is actually good he was not present because his body is still unstable. The pink-haired woman says the monsters might have recognized Emily as one of their own. The pink-haired woman says it is a relief no one was hurt, but people might find it suspicious.
Emily wonders if the prince decided to stay at their mansion with those suspicions in mind.
The pink-haired woman says he is an imperial knight, so he must know about the prince. The black-haired man says he is surprised.
The pink-haired woman says she wants to know what he is planning. The black-haired man says he does not see him often either.
The black-haired man says the prince is not someone who reveals his thoughts easily.
The black-haired man says maybe only Werner knows what the prince is really thinking. The pink-haired woman says she wants to know about Emily since she is the secretary.
Emily dismisses the question with a frantic headshake, clearly just as lost as the others.
The black-haired man says many descendants have died and the carriage explosion was likely related. The black-haired man says he is furious that they even targeted their youngest sibling.
The black-haired man says he wonders what the goal of targeting the descendants truly is.
The black-haired man says the goal is to prevent the divine blessing from being passed down. Isaac says he wants to know what that means.
The pink-haired woman says the plan sounds like something dark mages would come up with.
The pink-haired woman says she wonders why Isaac is so incredibly dense during this meeting.
Isaac says he meant something else while raising his hands in a defensive gesture.
Emily says he needs to be smacked while Isaac begs her to stop before she breaks something.
Emily says dark mages were sealed on Thanatos Island and the Holy See watches over the seal.
Emily says an escaped mage or a staged incident would explain how the monsters are being controlled.
Emily says dark mages tame beasts through binding, while the Holy See uses divine power for hurting.
Isaac says neither party has good intentions and they should assume continued assassination attempts will occur.
Emily says the prince staying at their home is a complication that makes her very uneasy.
Isaac says they will create a secret signal for communication that the prince will not be able to notice.
The scene shifts to the mansion exterior as a warning sounds that everyone must stay on guard.
The prince says he planned to stay anonymously but thanks the family for their warm welcome anyway. The group gathers around a grand table as the formal meal begins under a tense atmosphere. The crown prince observes his hosts with a calm and measured expression as the dinner proceeds quietly.
Isaac says the academy incident has been officially handled and classified as a simple monster attack.
Servants serve the table as Isaac says this year marks the renewal of the Holy See's contract.
Isaac says their house and the Archmone Duchy remain silent on the matter for specific political reasons.
Isaac says for the prince to enjoy the drink while maintaining a cautious and polite tone.
A servant presents a bottle of Shoe Hill vermouth from the year 33 as part of the service.
A secret signal is exchanged among siblings, meaning they must meet secretly later that night.
Isaac remains focused and serious as he carefully navigates the conversation with their royal guest.
The prince says he has been curious about something as he prepares to ask a probing question.
The prince's red eyes narrow with intensity as he prepares to challenge the siblings with an inquiry.
The prince asks if divine grace possesses the power to repel even monsters as the room falls silent.
A small purple-haired mascot character waves cheerfully during a brief pause in the story. Isaac finds the question about divine grace shocking and accidentally spits out his drink in surprise.
Isaac says he is sorry for his unsightly behavior and offers an apology to his royal guest.
Isaac says he displayed something unsightly and asks the prince to repeat his question one more time.
Yulia says for him to wait as she slams her hands on the table to create a distraction.
Yulia says she saw a suspicious figure past the window while Isaac notes her pathetic acting skills.
The prince calls for Lady Yulia Walker as he turns his attention to her sudden interruption. The prince says she has keen eyes and asks her to describe what she saw outside.
Yulia says she wonders if he is being sarcastic as she looks at him with visible surprise.
The prince says Duke Walker is clearly the next target and notes the enemies are moving quickly.
Isaac says for the chief attendant to come forward as he responds to the fabricated threat.
Isaac says to double the security and check for traces of intrusion around the mansion grounds.
Isaac says he is sorry and promises to ensure nothing like this ever happens again.
The prince says it is fine and acknowledges that protecting against monsters is inherently difficult.
Isaac says they should wrap things up and resume the meal, but the prince brings up divine grace.
Emily says the prince is oblivious to social cues but possesses a remarkably sharp memory.
The prince says it makes no sense for Lady Emily to be attacked if divine grace repels monsters. Yulia says she must act pitiful to gain sympathy while clenching her dress in feigned distress.
Yulia maintains a graceful appearance while internally strategizing how to deceive the prince's keen mind.
Yulia says the calmer she acts, the more people will pity her as she plots her defense.
The prince says his knowledge is no secret as he continues to press for answers regarding Emily.
The prince says he misspoke and tells her not to belittle herself regarding her perceived lacks.
Yulia looks down with a faint blush appearing on her face as she processes the prince's kindness. The prince says that is the first time he has heard anyone say such a thing to him.
The prince ponders the situation while Yulia watches him with a mixture of curiosity and caution. The prince says he is not exactly known for being warm to others as he continues reflecting. Yulia says his words could cause a scandal and wonders if he realizes what he is saying.
Yulia says she knows he is not flirting because she has worked with him for many years.
Emily considers how easily an outsider could misunderstand the nature of her current conversation.
Isaac slams his hand onto the table, urgently demanding the immediate service of the meal.
An elderly butler bowed respectfully, promising to have the food prepared for the royal guest. 2 plates of steak are presented as Isaac notes they forgot to eat during conversation.
Tristan expresses his appreciation for the family's devotion and thoughtfulness regarding his stay and meal.
A tense silence falls over the table as the siblings exchange wary, side-eyed glances together. The prince begins his meal with a calm and dignified posture amidst the heavy atmosphere.
Later, Yulia asks Emily to clarify her true relationship with the crown prince while walking.
Emily remains silent and focused, her expression unreadable as she considers how to answer Yulia.
Emily casually describes their dynamic as nothing more than a standard employer and employee relationship.
Emily dismisses the previous interaction as polite chatter, which Yulia finds incredibly hard to believe.
Emily explains that such social performances are vital for surviving the complexities of high society. Emily stands confidently as she reflects on the specialized skills required to navigate her position.
Emily wonders if Yulia can truly comprehend the burdens and masks required in her world.
Yulia acknowledges Emily's kindness but expresses deep concern that others will form the wrong impression. Emily asks if Yulia was worried about her, causing Yulia to react with defensive, loud confusion.
Emily asks if she was upset, and Yulia admits she was actually very mad.
Yulia demands that Emily stop treating her like a child during their heated hallway discussion.
Yulia yells for Yulia to stop being so nice to everyone as Tristan approaches them. Emily suggests they take a walk together in the cool air to clear Yulia's head. Yulia agrees to the walk and suggests bringing Andrea along for a day off.
Emily panics internally, remembering the secret signal she set and urging Yulia not to fail.
Yulia reflects on her past behavior, feeling guilty for not paying enough attention to Emily. Emily greets the prince and asks if he is planning to tour the mansion's gardens.
Tristan greets them while Yulia glares at him with an intensely suspicious and hostile expression.
Tristan explains his desire for a brief moment of peace away from his usual guard detail.
Emily expresses her relief that the prince will be properly accompanied on his way back. Tristan asks for a clarification on why Emily finds his escorted departure to be a relief.
Emily explains that arriving at court together would inevitably spark scandalous rumors among the nobility.
Emily notes that Werner's presence would be the only thing preventing gossip from spreading rapidly.
Tristan touches his forehead, admitting he was inconsiderate for not anticipating the potential for scandal.
Tristan bids the sisters a polite farewell and encourages them to enjoy their garden walk.
Tristan stops and asks Yulia if she is all right, sensing something is wrong with her.
Tristan points out that Yulia's foot has been stepped on for a very long time.
Yulia panics internally while struggling to find a logical explanation for Emily's aggressive secret signal.
Yulia claims she has a top dancing condition and that Emily is helping her control it. Emily is horrified by the absurdity of the lie and wonders how to fix it.
A wide shot shows the group standing in a long, sunlit hallway during the awkward pause. Yulia maintains her strained, nervous smile while explaining the fictional top dancing condition to the prince. Tristan expresses genuine disbelief, questioning if such a bizarre medical condition is even a possibility.
Emily realizes that even the sharp prince is flustered by their ridiculous and poorly planned excuse.
Yulia bites her finger in deep regret, unable to believe the absurd situation she created.
Emily hugs Yulia tightly, using the physical contact to muffle any more of her sister's outbursts.
Emily smiles politely through the awkwardness while Yulia hides her face against her sister's shoulder. Tristan watches the sisters with a puzzled expression, trying to comprehend their strange and frantic behavior.
Tristan asks if this condition is the real reason Emily recently took a long leave.
A younger version of Yulia is seen sitting on the floor surrounded by many books.
Emily explains that Yulia has been excessive with her hobbies, making her difficult to calm down. Tristan advises them to pursue their hobbies in moderation to avoid any further public incidents.
Yulia agrees to keep the advice in mind while maintaining a forced and uncomfortable smile.
Tristan looks away with a disappointed sigh, admitting that the current situation is quite a shame.
Tristan mentions that his original plan was to ask Lady Yulia to help experiment with a new reagent. Yulia's eyes sparkle with immense excitement as she repeats the prospect of working with a new reagent. Tristan reveals that the keeper of the Frostwood Forest, a descendant of Saint Elisa, has recently passed away.
Tristan explains that a book containing the recipe for a special potion was found among the keeper's remains.
A shimmering blue potion in an ornate glass bottle appears, representing the mysterious recipe Tristan described.
Yulia theorizes the reagent involves divine power since it contains holy water and asks why it was hidden.
Yulia says she is so excited while Emily watches her sister's energetic reaction with a polite smile.
Emily sternly reminds Yulia that she is in no condition to practice alchemy, ignoring her sister's protests.
Tristan notes that because the matter is sensitive, he cannot make a public request for the research.
Emily covers Yulia's mouth and asks for time to discuss the proposal with the rest of their family.
Tristan concedes, acknowledging that his suggestion was merely a proposal and that he understands their need to deliberate. Emily bows respectfully to the prince, thanking him for his patience and understanding of their situation.
As night falls, Isaac bursts into uncontrollable laughter inside the mansion, finding the tap dancing excuse absolutely hilarious. Isaac continues to mock Yulia's ridiculous excuse while she stands nearby, visibly annoyed by her brother's teasing.
Yulia snaps at Isaac to stop laughing, insisting that the top dancing lie was her only desperate option.
Emily notes Yulia's difficulty with alchemy before reflecting on how Isaac's previous enhancement went horribly wrong.
Isaac listens intently as he asks for clarification on the requirements for a proper and safe enhancement.
Emily explains that a successful enhancement requires 5 adult corpses or specific parts from a dead monster's body.
Isaac decides they should accept the reagent proposal while he works on acquiring the necessary research materials.
Yulia is ecstatic, her face lighting up with joy at the prospect of being allowed to conduct research.
Isaac wonders aloud why the previous keeper would choose to keep such a valuable recipe hidden from others.
Yulia curiously suggests that perhaps the keeper simply wanted to keep the power of the reagent for himself. A mysterious figure in a blue robe stands with their back turned, surrounded by glowing blue light.
Isaac speculates that the recipe might have been hidden because it was actually designed to benefit black mages.
The siblings share a moment of tense silence as they process the dark implications of Isaac's theory.
A hooded figure holds a glowing red gem, illustrating the potential danger if the potion fell into wrong hands.
Isaac argues that if developed correctly, the reagent could be incredibly helpful to their family regardless of origin.
Isaac points out that using research as a pretense to buy more time is a strategic gain.
Yulia asks for confirmation on starting her research, and Isaac permits it as long as it remains safe.
Yulia hugs Isaac with joy as the meeting concludes with a promise to acquire the needed materials.
The scene shifts to a grand, sun-drenched palace standing majestically against a clear blue sky.
Sunlight pours into a lavishly decorated room, highlighting the intricate furniture and the quiet atmosphere within.
Werner asks why the prince rode separately from Lady Walker, and Tristan explains it was her request.
Werner realizes that riding together could have caused a scandal, though he thought his presence was enough.
Werner notes that Tristan's suspicions about the Duke's daughter seem resolved since no investigation has been ordered.
Werner reasons that Emily's talent with black magic is proven and the missing corpses were likely a cover-up.
Werner describes Emily as a kind and affectionate person who gives off a very soft and pleasant impression.
Werner recalls Emily's bravery in protecting her brother, strengthening his belief that she is fundamentally a good person.
Werner looks toward Tristan and asks if he doesn't agree that Lady Emily is a truly good person.
Tristan remains skeptical, simply stating that they will have to wait and see about Lady Emily's character.
Tristan reflects on the saying that a friend to everyone is truly a friend to no one.
Tristan points out that the carriage provided by the Walker household today appeared to be a brand new model.
Tristan places his hand on a document, explaining his ability to track any family's carriage purchases through taxes.
An illustration of an ornate blue carriage appears as Tristan explains the tax records for luxury purchases.
Tristan maintains a serious expression while he continues to analyze the inconsistencies regarding the family's acquisitions.
Tristan reveals that he found absolutely no official record of the Walker ducal house purchasing any carriage recently.
Tristan asks what motive someone would have for secretly acquiring a new carriage, his eyes filled with suspicion.
Under the cover of darkness, someone walks through the mansion gardens, their footsteps muffled by soft grass. Emily reaches the base of a tall stone tower at night and knocks firmly on the door.
Emily reaches the base of the tower and is instructed to enter the structure quietly.
Descending a spiral staircase, they note that the palace's late-night work provided a perfect opportunity.
Isaac and Emily enter a cold facility filled with gurneys holding bodies covered by sheets.
Isaac examines the remains and notes that there are 69 corpses available in good condition.
Isaac calculates that 69 bodies will allow them to use 20 per person for their recovery.
A tag identifies one of the bodies as Harry, an executed criminal who was 54 years old.
Emily watches silently while Isaac remains focused on the dark necessities of their family's survival.
Donald identifies himself as the great hand of the corpse market while bragging about his identity. Isaac grumbles about the unreasonable request for fresh bodies on such a short notice.
Donald suggests that the corpses of executed criminals are the best solution for their needs. Donald explains that hangings are still the standard method for executions carried out in Balan. Unclaimed bodies are kept for a set period before being cremated on a scheduled date. Donald proposes stealing the bodies during storage and faking cremation records to hide the crime. Isaac asks about the storage location, and Donald reveals they are kept in the palace. Isaac mentions he already has an agent inside the palace, so no bribes will be necessary. Isaac asks for a specific count of how many corpses they can obtain right away.
Donald remarks on the massive size of the Bellin Empire, which covers a quarter of the continent.
A map of the continent illustrates the vast territory Donald is describing to Isaac.
Donald confidently tells Isaac he can provide as many corpses as he wants.
Isaac calls Emily's name, noticing her pensive and troubled expression during their secret meeting.
Isaac comforts Emily, telling her to prioritize their family's well-being over any feelings of guilt.
Emily stands within a glowing magic circle as powerful purple energy and debris swirl through the air. Emily believes she can handle the unprecedented number of corpses required for this powerful ritual.
Emily claps her hands with a determined smile, ready to begin the magical process immediately.
Purple smoke fills the room as the ritual begins under the watchful eyes of the group. Emily chants about the Black Wolf, dismissing all gods and ancient prophecies as mere lies.
Emily allows her blood to drip onto the magic circle to activate the necrotic power.
A small girl with purple hair and a matching hat hugs a small, sad-looking plush.
The mansion stands alone and quiet under the vast expanse of the night sky's stars.
Tristan walks through the mansion's quiet hallways, the sound of his footsteps echoing through the air.
Tristan observes that the mansion is unusually quiet, making him wonder if the master is away. Tristan recalls how the siblings are typically loud and wander the estate until the early dawn.
Tristan finds the current state of the house suspiciously silent, as if everyone is fast asleep.
Tristan decides to use this silence to search for records of the family's carriage purchases. Tristan enters a room, believing that finding the document will finally clarify the family's secrets.
Tristan's hands sort through a pile of documents on a desk, searching for a specific record.
From above, Tristan is seen working at a desk in the middle of the large library.
Tristan sighs as he struggles to find the papers, then notices something odd in the room.
Tristan focuses on a decorative vase and an ornament sitting on a side table nearby. Tristan expresses shock at what he sees, unable to believe the discovery he just made.
A close-up shows a hand reaching toward the base of the ornament on the table.
A black cat meows, causing Tristan to turn around in surprise with a frantic expression.
Tristan is unsettled by how the cat approached him without being sensed at all.
The black cat nuzzles Tristan's leg while meowing, acting completely friendly toward the intruder.
Tristan looks down at the cat, which stares back with intense, glowing yellow eyes. A blonde woman calls out for the cat, Lev, as Tristan reacts with panicked concern.
Tristan tells the cat to keep his presence a secret before jumping out of the window. The blonde woman enters the room and finds the cat sitting alone on the floor.
The blonde woman wonders why the door and window are both open, finding it very odd.
The blonde woman picks up the cat and leads it back towards room. The black cat watches Tristan from the trees, silently judging him as a corrupt individual.
The blonde woman stares off with a contemplative and slightly melancholy expression on her face.
Inside the lavish dressing room, Emily sits before her mirror while the blonde woman approaches.
The blonde woman pauses her work, tentatively mentioning a suspicious event she witnessed the previous night.
Recalling her search for Reuven, she explains finding the Duke's office door and window open. Thinking the situation was odd, she informs Emily about the potential intruder in the study. Emily thanks her for the information and decides to discuss the matter with her brother.
A sudden realization strikes the blonde woman as she remembers another task she needs to complete.
She informs Emily that a letter has arrived for her and goes to retrieve it. A dainty hand presents an elegant white envelope sealed with a distinctive blue bird insignia.
Emily reflects on her academy friend, a prominent socialite currently at the height of high society. Emily wonders what her busy friend wants, and if it is yet another party invitation.
Emily holds the letter open, her expression shifting to one of curiosity as she reads. The contents of the letter are written in a flowery looping script across the paper. The friend complains about being left out while Emily meets people without her and writes playfully. She insists that Emily attend a tea party a month away so Hazel can join them. The letter mentions a new friend who wants to meet Emily at the prince's birthday celebration. An illustration depicts a romanticized scene of a couple dancing amidst a flurry of white roses.
The postscript mentions a scandalous rumor regarding Emily and the prince commuting together to their work.
Emily is baffled by the claim that they have become close enough to introduce each other. The blonde woman suggests Emily explicitly deny any romantic involvement with His Highness when they meet. A thunderous explosion rocks the mansion, causing Emily to spring from her seat in sheer panic.
Emily sprints down the hallway, realizing the alarming sound originated from Yulia's research laboratory area.
Bursting into the smoke-filled room, Emily frantically calls out for Yulia to ensure she is unharmed.
Emily coughs through the thick gray haze, continuing to search for her sister in the wreckage.
Yulia appears through the fog wearing protective goggles, surprised to see Emily and her messy laboratory.
Yulia brushes off the incident as a minor experimental error and teases Emily for being worried.
Emily expresses her relief but sternly warns Yulia to be more careful with her volatile experiments. A cheerful Yulia embraces Emily, laughing off the dangerous mishap with a playful and carefree attitude.
Hurin, mansion guard captain, rushes into the lab with his sword drawn, fearing an attack.
Emily stands amidst the lingering smoke and assures the frantic guard that no real danger exists. Hurin is moved to tears, misinterpreting the explosion as a sign of Yulia's passionate academic dedication. He celebrates Yulia's return to alchemy while Emily manages a strained and very awkward laugh. Both women are suddenly distracted by another presence entering the room, their eyes widening in surprise.
Tristan arrives at the laboratory, looking around the smoky room to check if everyone is safe.
Emily and Yulia immediately bow, offering formal greetings to the prince as he approaches the group. Tristan tells them to skip the formalities given the chaotic state of the laboratory they are in. Tristan maintains a calm but piercing gaze as he assesses the damage caused by the sudden blast. Yulia explains that the loud noise was merely the result of a failed experiment during her research.
Tristan questions the possibility of further explosions, and Yulia confidently assures him the danger has passed.
Tristan orders Sir Huron to stand down and return to his post before addressing the girls alone.
Emily remains silent and pensive, her gaze fixed forward as she processes the prince's sudden arrival.
Tristan crosses his arms and stares at Emily, his expression unreadable as he waits for her reaction.
Tristan breaks the silence by asking Emily directly if she sustained any injuries during the laboratory accident.
Emily explains she was nearby and only rushed over because the loud sound startled her.
Tristan looks away with a slight frown, relieved that she was not directly caught in the blast.
He warns that if the blast were an assassination attempt, her life would have been in peril.
Emily apologizes for her lack of foresight and admits she did not consider the broader security implications. Tristan suddenly produces an object and instructs Emily to take it for her own future protection.
Tristan hands Emily an ornate white and gold dagger adorned with a brilliant glowing amber gemstone.
Emily examines the custom-made dagger Tristan gave her, questioning if she should accept it.
Tristan leans in and softly whispers a plea for Emily to avoid getting hurt.
Emily is left startled and blushing as Tristan suddenly pulls away from her.
Tristan asks about research progress while Emily wonders what just happened. Yulia confirms significant results. Yulia removes her goggles and prepares to deliver some disappointing news regarding their current experiment. Yulia explains that missing recipe components will significantly delay the completion of her research project.
Despite the setbacks, Yulia maintains a bright and passionate expression while discussing her academic work.
Emily observes her sister's enthusiasm and wonders if she could ever feel such genuine passion.
Gripping the dagger, Emily reflects on their differences as twins and feels a tightening chest.
Tristan and Yulia discuss potential candidates for an intermediate catalyst needed for their next experiment. Tristan realizes that he allowed himself to get distracted while Yulia began rambling about her research.
Tristan calls out to Yulia to refocus her attention on the immediate task at hand.
Tristan suggests that Yulia should immediately test her new theory before the details escape her.
Emily agrees to test a specific reagent while Tristan formally dismisses a guard from the room. Tristan stands alone in the library, his expression returning to its usual stern and serious state. A faint, gentle smile crosses Tristan's face as he lingers in the quiet of the study.
Emily walks away from the conversation, inwardly questioning if anything strange might occur at the party.
A grand palace stands ready for guests as a white-haired man is ushered inside for the event.
The white-haired saint offers a serene smile, radiating a calm and holy presence within the palace.
A detailed view showcases the saint's ornate formal attire adorned with a large golden cross.
The vast palace gardens are filled with light and decorations for the grand celebration underway.
Emily enters the crowded ballroom, looking around at the sea of socialites with a silent expression. Emily glances about the room, her green eyes scanning the crowd with a hint of uncertainty.
Guests mingle throughout the hall while Landra is seen engaged in a conversation with Yulia.
Emily observes from a distance, noting with a smirk that Landra is still bothering her sister. Natalie approaches Emily from behind, greeting her friend warmly amidst the noise of the party.
Emily mentions her focus on family while Natalie remarks on how well Emily appears to be doing.
Natalie laughs confidently, declaring herself to be the undeniable flower of the current social scene.
Natalie suddenly realizes that the companion she arrived with has mysteriously vanished from her side.
The two women wonder where the friend went, and Natalie worries she left her alone too long. Emily asks Natalie to clarify the identity of the new friend she intended to introduce tonight.
Natalie explains she wanted Emily to meet Count Swanson's only daughter, thinking they would bond.
Emily asks for the specific name of the girl Natalie is describing with such enthusiasm.
Natalie identifies her as Penelope Swanson, noting she has finally recovered from a long-term illness.
Emily is gripped by shock, thinking to herself that the girl's presence is an absolute impossibility.
A dark memory reveals that Count Swanson's only daughter is actually deceased, making the claim terrifying.
Emily recalls attending the funeral and feels a sense of dread regarding someone returning from death.
Natalie remains oblivious to Emily's distress, looking forward to finding her friend later in the night. Natalie departs to search for her companion, leaving Emily determined to investigate the mystery herself. An official announcement rings out, signaling the grand entrance of the Crown Prince into the ballroom.
The guests stand at attention as the hall fills with the anticipation of the royal arrival.
The Crown Prince walks forward with steady, measured steps across the polished floor of the palace.
Tristan, appearing as the Crown Prince, maintains a regal and composed expression before his birthday guests.
The massive crowd of nobles watches in silence as the prince makes his way through the hall.
The prince ascends a staircase, his presence commanding the attention of everyone in the grand ballroom.
From the balcony, the prince thanks everyone for attending the celebration of his 28th birthday.
A montage shows scenes of the prince receiving gifts and interacting with guests during the festivities.
A choir dressed in white and gold robes performs a celebratory song for the royal birthday.
Emily stands in the crowd, deciding to stay just a bit longer before making her exit.
A sudden wave of intense nausea hits Emily, forcing her to seek fresh air outside immediately.
Emily stands on the balcony, reflecting on her exhaustion after nights of hard work.
A sudden sound from behind startles the pink-haired woman from her private thoughts. The Crown Prince enters the terrace, noticing that someone else has already arrived there.
Emily gasps in surprise at seeing the prince, who formally acknowledges her as Lady Walker.
Emily offers a gentle smile to the prince while confetti falls around her. Tristan nods in return, accepting her greeting and addressing her by her first name.
Emily wishes him a happy birthday and notes her gift was delivered through the palace.
The young woman mentions the difficulty of obtaining her favorite tea due to trade issues.
Tristan explains he noticed her genuine enjoyment of the tea compared to her usual habits.
Emily worries her preferences were too obvious, but the prince reassures her he alone noticed.
Tristan leans close to Emily, praising her for being a very considerate person.
Startled by his proximity, Emily stumbles backward as her heel catches on the floor.
The prince stares intensely while Emily suggests he came outside to find some quiet rest.
Emily tries to excuse herself to avoid being a bother, but Tristan asks her to stay.
Tristan explains they are under the watchful eyes of the guests and should remain hidden.
Tristan suggests waiting for the music to change before returning to avoid attracting more attention. Emily acknowledges that their joint investigation has likely fueled the scandalous rumors about them.
Emily proposes they stop meeting to curb the gossip, but the prince firmly rejects it.
The two stand together on the balcony, framed by the light of the palace doors.
Emily hears the music transition and realizes it is finally time for her to return inside.
Emily flusteredly announces her departure and turns to leave the prince alone on the terrace.
Emily runs away quickly, her heart racing as she escapes the prince's overwhelming presence.
Emily leans against a wall, trying to calm herself and blaming her pulse on nerves. A sudden wave of physical distress hits Emily, signaling that something is very wrong.
Emily collapses in agony, clutching her dress as a sharp pain radiates through her chest.
Struggling through the crowd, Emily feels a heavy sense of dread as her condition worsens.
A calm voice cuts through her pain, asking if she is all right amidst her suffering.
Looking up, Emily sees the saint staring down at her with a serene but piercing gaze.
The saint stands before her in his ornate white robes, his presence radiating divine light.
Emily is overcome with fear, feeling like defenseless prey before a dangerous predator.
The saint calls out to a priest to observe Emily's poor physical state.
Priest Paolo suggests taking her to a physician while the saint proceeds with his duties.
The saint's holy smile fills Emily with dread as she wonders if he intends her harm.
Paolo protests that the saint must preserve his divine strength for the upcoming royal blessing.
The saint counters by asserting that saving the person in front of him is paramount. Emily is stunned that her well-being has sparked a theological debate between the two men.
Emily forces a polite response, insisting she is honored and only felt a moment of dizziness.
Paolo accepts her claim of recovery and urges the saint to continue on their way.
The saint lingers for a moment, looking down at the pink-haired noblewoman with concern.
The saint takes Emily's hands, gently advising her to rest and take care of herself.
The saint maintains eye contact, his expression softening as he holds the young woman's hands.
Emily is left dazed as the saint offers a final blessing before he turns to leave. The two holy men walk away together, leaving the flustered Emily alone in the hallway.
The scene shifts to a quiet, regal study where the two men continue their conversation. The saint asks Priest Paolo if he knows the identity of the lady from earlier. Paolo identifies her as Emily Walker, noting she is a twin daughter of her house.
The saint repeats her name while looking deeply troubled, his mind clearly occupied with her.
Paolo offers to arrange a private meeting if the saint wishes to speak with her.
The saint declines, appearing conflicted as he contemplated the strange feelings he experienced.
He concludes that his initial intuition must have been wrong, though he remains deeply unsettled.
Saint Sion asks for a private audience with the crown prince to be arranged for tomorrow.
Priest Paolo agrees to arrange the private meeting as requested by the saint.
Elegant couples dance as the grand celebration continues across the polished palace ballroom floor.
Julia feels a sudden wave of intense nausea and wonders if she is drunk.
Clenching her jaw in pain, the pink-haired woman clutches her aching head in distress.
Ed approaches Julia, noting that he also feels suddenly and inexplicably unwell.
Julia and Ed realize they need to find Emily to understand their shared physical distress.
Julia decides to depart while wondering where Isaac has vanished to in the crowd.
Julia spots Isaac among the guests and calls out to him with urgent concern. Julia hurries toward Isaac, frustrated that he is ignoring her calls and acting strangely.
A gloved hand reaches out and firmly grabs Isaac's arm to stop his progress.
Julia tries to lead Isaac away as an announcement introduces Saint Sion to the guests.
Julia is struck by a terrifying sensation as she hears the saint's name officially announced. The official announcement requests that the saint's visit remain top secret for the time being.
Isaac remains frozen and silent as Julia desperately pleads for him to respond to her.
Isaac begins to lose control, prompting Julia to fake a bug sighting as a distraction.
Julia holds on to the struggling Isaac, claiming he is simply exhausted and needs quiet rest.
Julia whispers for Isaac to close his eyes while he continues to suffer in agony.
Julia loudly claims that Isaac is in too much pain to speak, masking his condition. Isaac looks utterly defeated and exhausted, his face pale from the intense internal struggle. Julia asks if Isaac is stable now and inquires about the locations of the others.
Julia notes that Ed is nearby but expresses frustration at being unable to find Emily. The two look at each other with silent apprehension while scanning the crowded ballroom.
Julia and Ed decide to depart together as Saint Sion officially makes his grand entrance.
A glowing figure appears on the balcony, capturing Julia's attention as the hall goes dark. A shadowy red-veined silhouette expresses a murderous desire to tear the cunning priest apart.
Emily urges herself to stay composed, fearing that everyone will die if they are discovered.
Emily reflects on her own death and fears she might kill someone she shouldn't.
Dark thoughts plague Emily as she questions the necessity of holding back her lethal instincts.
Emily stands at the balcony railing, looking down at the guests gathered in the hall. Watching the festivities from above, Emily concludes that the current situation is a total disaster.
Emily observes the growing chaos below, including the prince's distress and the awkward atmosphere.
Emily stares down at the ballroom floor with a vacant and deeply troubled expression. Saint Sion stands before the crowd, prepared to perform his duties for the celebration.
Emily senses a presence and addresses Lev, noticing his glowing eyes in the darkness.
Lev, a black cat, steps forward and asks Emily why she has summoned him.
Emily asks the cat for help in evacuating her siblings without being detected.
Emily tells the cat she needs help and a way to escape undetected.
Lev senses the saint's presence and refuses to act as Emily's personal wish-granting tool.
Lev informs Emily that he cannot help because the siblings are actually her familiars.
Emily looks shocked as the cat reveals she is the master of her own siblings.
Lev tells Emily to give her siblings an order to force their absolute obedience. Lev explains that once she gives an order, her servants will pledge their allegiance.
Emily repeats the instruction to order them, her expression filled with hesitation and doubt.
A single, firm confirmation states that giving the command is the only way to succeed.
Emily reflects on the master-servant bond connecting her soul to those of her family members.
Emily feels sickened by the realization of her master-servant relationship with her family.
Lev warns the hesitating Emily that she has no time left to make a choice.
Emily stands on the balcony, resolving to try controlling her siblings as the cat suggested. Emily projects a powerful aura, commanding her siblings to stop as bright light fills the area.
Trembling hands clutch the edge of the balcony as a dark command echoes. The pink-haired woman decides to leave the palace and return home immediately.
Emily collapses onto the balcony floor in exhaustion while the black cat watches. The noblewoman exhales deeply, her face flushed as she tries to recover her strength. The next day, sunlight illuminates the grand white spires of the imperial palace.
Julia stands in a hallway as an off-screen voice protests the saint's bold actions.
Paolo offers to arrange an appointment later, but Sion insists on an immediate meeting. Julia senses a powerful aura nearby, causing her to freeze in sudden apprehension.
Saint Sion stands nearby, his gaze fixed on something down the ornate hallway.
The pink-haired woman looks up in surprise as she realizes who is approaching her.
Sion approaches Julia and takes her hands, asking if she remembers meeting yesterday.
Julia forces a polite smile, confirming she remembers the saint despite her inner turmoil. Sion asks to be called by his name and inquires if Julia feels better. Sion explains he has urgent business for the prince, but was denied an appointment.
The two stand together in a soft light as Sion continues holding Julia's hands.
The silver-haired man looks at Julia intensely, promising the meeting will only take a moment.
Julia panics, claiming she cannot help and suddenly feels unwell to avoid the request.
Sion notes she didn't seem well yesterday either and asks if she should work.
Julia thanks him but notes her schedule and heard of no appointment.
Looking down, Julia contemplates the sheer audacity of someone requesting an audience so abruptly.
Sion offers a radiant, expectant smile that makes it difficult for Julia to refuse.
Julia realizes that while regulations apply to everyone, she has no choice but to assist.
The pink-haired woman relents and asks the saint to follow her for now. A heavy door clicks open, revealing the entrance to the crown prince's personal study.
Julia leads Sion into the spacious room, which is filled with elegant furniture.
Julia offers tea, but Sion declines, stating he only intends to stay briefly. Julia explains she brought him inside due to watchers, but warns the prince decides everything.
Julia worries Tristan will hate this surprise visit, despite Sion being from the Vatican.
The saint remains calm and cheerful, seemingly unbothered by the potential for rejection.
Julia finally agrees to address him as Sion, though the familiarity still feels strange.
Sion admits he snuck out, leaving Julia stunned that he would risk trouble with Paolo.
Narrative text explains the Vatican considers approaching the imperial family first a form of defeat.
Julia wonders if it is truly acceptable for a saint to defy the Vatican's will.
Sion chuckles softly, enjoying the young woman's shocked reaction to his rebellious behavior.
Sion asks if his actions seem unsaintly, while Julia admits her thoughts were obvious. The saint notes that some matters are simply more important than following the rules.
Heavy footsteps approach the study door, signaling the arrival of the master of the house.
Sion turns as the door opens, surprised that the crown prince came in person. Sion addresses Tristan formally as the crown prince enters the room with his guard.
Sion apologizes for the intrusion and asks for a moment of time for tea.
Tristan removes his cloak, sounding uncertain as he considers the saint's unexpected request. Tristan orders Burner to escort the saint out, refusing to grant him an immediate audience.
Undeterred, Sion asks if Tristan would meet for lunch or dinner at another time.
Sion insists the matter is important for Tristan and unrelated to any ongoing renegotiations.
The saint mentions he knows about the upcoming dinner with Vatican envoys in 2 days.
Tristan suggests that if the matter is important, they can discuss it formally later.
Julia is taken aback by Tristan's strict demeanor and how coldly he treats Sion.
Tristan wonders how the news leaked, noting that unexpected visitors are a common nuisance. Tristan scoffs, suggesting his enemies hate the idea of a heretic son becoming the emperor.
Julia watches the prince, finding his cynical assessment of the political situation quite understandable. Cyan mentions the dark mages, shocking the pink-haired woman while the prince listens intently. The black-haired man asks for clarification regarding the saint's cryptic message about the mages. Cyan notes the prince's recent investigation into suspicious people, but the man remains skeptical. The black-haired man clenches his fist as the saint insists the situation is organic. Cyan explains that dark mages are active again and requests cooperation in stopping them. A digital screen indicates that more chapters are available on a specific website.
A Scanlation credit page features a separate character and promotional text for their services.
A tense silence fills the room as the group stands together in the study. Tristan stops Emily from leaving, insisting she stay for the rest of the conversation. Tristan questions the saint's trustworthiness, citing deep-seated suspicion toward the papacy's recent words. Cyan asserts that the prince has no choice but to believe him given the situation. Cyan reveals the barrier of Thanatos Island is weakening, causing a visual shock to everyone. Tristan asks for the saint's true motive in disclosing such a dangerous, fatal weakness. Cyan admits he only has one desire from the prince in exchange for this truth. The saint looks determined, standing with his hand over his heart in a sincere gesture. Emily is horrified as the saint declares that punishing black wizards is his sole justice. Internal thoughts emphasize the extreme difficulty of living as a black wizard in this climate. The prince begins to outline the conditions of their potential cooperation regarding the black wizards.
Tristan agrees to cooperate, noting that their wills are aligned regarding the punishment of mages.
Emily is visibly panicked, noticing how quickly the prince's interest has shifted toward the saint. Cyan expresses satisfaction, while a chibi Emily offers a flat, sarcastic congratulation on their deal. Tristan asks how long the saint intends to remain within the borders of the empire. Cyan explains he will stay for the time being, but a sudden noise interrupts him. Tristan turns in surprise, asking what is causing the sudden ruckus outside the study doors.
Burner reports that a priest is causing a disturbance outside while looking for the saint.
Cyan looks down with a weary expression, burdened by the expectations of the papacy.
Cyan regretfully decides to leave, promising to discuss the finer details with Tristan later. The saint smiles warmly, promising to always be by the prince's side before departing.
Tristan addresses Lady Emily, who responds with formal and professional attention after Cyan leaves.
Tristan orders Emily to add a formal audience with the saint to his earliest schedule.
Tristan sits at his desk and clutches his head in exhaustion as Emily watches silently. The prince winces in pain, his face pale from the strain of the day's events.
A hand places a cup of steaming tea on the desk to soothe the man's headache. Tristan looks up in surprise, identifying the beverage as his preferred Hirschman tea.
Emily smiles, explaining she thought he might need it given his visible physical distress. Tristan asks how she knew his preferences, while she explains her observations of his behavior. Chibi Emily explains that he always seeks this specific tea whenever he suffers a headache. Tristan is stunned that she knows his habits so well despite his stoic outer demeanor.
Emily admits that observing people is a small hobby she finds genuinely fun and rewarding. Illustrative text describes her process of noting Tristan's favorite refreshments to better serve him later. A pen and a bouquet of daisies represent the mundane details Emily tracks as a scribe.
Tristan looks at Emily with an intense, thoughtful gaze as he processes her care. Emily jokes that her observations provide a rare bit of pleasure in her bleak life.
Emily leans in and whispers that she is the only one who knows his secrets. Tristan repeats her claim in disbelief, questioning if she truly is the only one watching. Tristan fidgets with his cup, appearing flustered by the intimacy of her focused attention. Emily looks confused by the prince's sudden change in mood and his silent staring. Tristan blushes deeply and turns away, claiming she is simply kind to everyone she meets. The prince brusquely orders her back to work to hide his growing embarrassment and confusion.
The imperial palace stands majestically under the afternoon sun as the working day continues.
Natalie offers a radiant smile, appearing genuinely pleased as she clasps her gloved hands together.
Chibi Natalie notes that Penelope went home early from the Crown Prince's birthday party.
Penelope Swanson introduces herself to Emily, her entrance marked by the sharp clicking of heels. Penelope stands elegantly against a backdrop of red roses, radiating a sharp and intimidating aura.
Emily realizes Penelope is a black wizard, sensing a terrifying and tart camaraderie with her. Emily introduces herself while noting her manner remained hidden from the saint and the mage.
With a cheerful expression, Penelope invites the ladies to hurry inside her estate for tea.
The three noblewomen walk down a long, ornate hallway toward the center of the mansion.
Emily resolves to be careful, wondering if Penelope is truly unaware of her own identity.
A serene garden features classic white architecture and elegant fountains under the bright afternoon sun.
Trays of decadent cakes, pastries, and tea are meticulously arranged for the outdoor social gathering.
Penelope welcomes her final guests, Emily and Natalie, gesturing toward the group already seated outside. Two noblewomen greet the newcomers, inviting the daughter of the Walker house to take her seat. Lady Mary praises the tea scent while Penelope explains she grew the specific herbs herself. Emily observes that even former classmates do not question the suspicious death of the late countess. Looking at the group, Emily wonders if Penelope has manipulated the memories of everyone present. Natalie explains to Emily that Penelope has been eager to meet her for a long time. Natalie expresses her pride in the meeting while Emily remains silently wary of the situation. Penelope asks Emily to call her by her first name as they share a warm beverage. Natalie and Chibi Penelope discuss the amazing nature of making friends years after their academy days. Emily sweats in silence, feeling the hidden tension behind the pleasant facade of the tea party.
Natalie and Penelope look at one another as the social gathering continues in the sunny garden.
Natalie begins to describe meeting on a terrace, but suddenly stops as her memory becomes distorted.
Natalie's face blanks out while she repeats a question about how she and Penelope first met. Frantic red text repeats a single question about their meeting, reflecting a broken and manipulated memory.
The page is consumed by red text as Natalie's mind struggles against the forced mental barrier.
Penelope places her hands on Natalie's shoulders, noting that the woman is malfunctioning yet again.
Penelope implants a false memory of spilled wine on a dress to reset Natalie's confused mind.
A fallen wine glass reinforces the fabrication Penelope is using to rewrite the noblewoman's fractured past.
Distorted text repeats the false memory of Penelope spilling wine on Natalie's dress during a party.
Penelope smiles coldly, congratulating herself on a successful memory reset as her victim falls into place.
With a snap of her fingers, Penelope restores order as the group suddenly erupts into laughter. Natalie brightly accepts the lie, recalling the fabricated event of Penelope spilling wine on her dress.
Emily watches in horror, realizing the entire interaction feels like a scene from a scripted novel. Natalie finds the fake memory fascinating while Penelope looks on with a satisfied, cheerful expression.
Emily realizes Penelope uses mind control to manipulate the Count, the Countess, and the surrounding ladies.
Horrified, Emily realizes she could disappear without anyone noticing if Penelope decides to target her next.
Penelope mumbles about a frustrating interest while Emily wonders who the Black Wizard is talking about.
A hand reaches out as a voice calls for everyone's attention at the tea party.
Penelope stands among her guests and servants, her red dress striking against the white stone arches.
The ladies thank Penelope for the invitation, promising to host a meeting at their own estates.
Penelope bids Emily farewell, claiming it was fun to finally meet her during the day's events.
Emily forces a smile and agrees the time was delightful, hiding her inner terror and exhaustion.
Entering her carriage, Emily exhales a deep breath of relief as she departs the Swanson estate.
Emily reflects on her exhaustion from being stuck between the prince, the saint, and the mage.
Penelope stands in the garden with her staff, her friendly demeanor vanishing as the guests leave.
Clutching her head, Penelope complains that acting like a noble lady does not suit her temper.
Penelope scoffs at the noisy fuss noblewomen make over tea, finding the social charade entirely annoying.
Penelope sharply calls for Herman, who nervously asks why he is being addressed by his master. Penelope berates Herman for failing to notice she is standing, causing the man to flinch in fear.
Penelope scolds Herman for suggesting a dirty chair as she uses him as a seat.
Penelope grows impatient for news from Claude and expresses a desire to eliminate their enemies.
Herman explains their tactical disadvantage and the threat posed by the saint in the Vatican.
Penelope demands silence from Herman, clearly irritated by his attempts to offer logical explanations.
Penelope forces Herman to remain still while she berates him for his lack of progress.
Penelope decides to take initiative and personally confront their target rather than waiting for Claude.
Penelope roughly pulls Herman's hair while revealing Emily as the perfect bait for her plan.
A shower of red petals and fine white dust fills the darkening, ominous atmosphere.
A luxurious carriage waits outside the palace as the scene shifts to the afternoon light.
Emily looks surprised as a man in a waistcoat approaches her within the grand hallway.
Tristan informs Emily that a forbidden black magic book will be auctioned at a secret event.
A hand displays an ornate black mask decorated with intricate white feathers and a gem. Emily looks at the mask with a focused, silent expression, preparing for the covert mission.
Guests in formal wear climb a red carpeted staircase as Emily adjusts to her secret disguise.
Tristan and Emily enter the venue with Emily questioning if their outfits look too suspicious.
Emily finds the mask uncomfortable and restrictive as she navigates the crowded auction house.
Emily recalls her subspace pocket, a hidden magic tool she brought to secure any stolen items.
A guard stops Emily, mistakenly identifying her as staff and pointing toward the service entrance.
A chibi staff member pushes a confused Emily toward the wrong area of the mansion.
Emily stands alone in a dark, empty hallway, wondering how she ended up so lost.
Another staff member assumes Emily is a new hire and orders her to follow him immediately.
Emily realizes the staff mask she is wearing has caused a massive case of mistaken identity.
Chibi Emily decides to play along when she hears the man mention the magic tome storage. Tristan stands on an upper level of the auditorium, unaware that Emily has been separated.
Tristan and his companion notice Emily is missing while the auctioneer begins the formal bidding.
The auctioneer stands under a bright spotlight and introduces the cursed diamond as the first lot.
Backstage staff scramble to change the order of the auction items due to a sudden delay.
A supervisor approves of Emily's appearance in her new uniform, thinking she is a dedicated worker.
Emily stands in her full staff attire, feeling the weight of the feathers on her mask. GB Emily is tasked with double-checking the inventory records for the high-value auction items. A close-up highlights Emily's intense focus as she scans the room for the forbidden tome.
A man hands Emily a ledger, asking if she is capable of handling the task alone.
Emily discovers the black magic book, identified as auction item 183, and celebrates her luck.
The tome is heavily guarded by magical seals and thick iron chains within the storage room. Emily observes the floating book, noting it was reportedly scavenged from a legendary saintess's burial site.
Satisfied that the item is genuine, Emily decides it is time to return to her team.
Emily's relief turns to horror as she finds blood and bodies scattered across the floor.
A mysterious man in a black cloak stands among the carnage as Emily remains frozen.
Emily gasps in terror when the man suddenly turns his attention toward her presence.
The cloaked figure informs Emily that her luck has run out as he looms over her.
The two stand in the bloody corridor, the tension rising as the man approaches Emily.
Emily realizes the man is a familiar enemy and fears that her disguise has been compromised.
The man taunts Emily for her poor timing while she internally panics about her imminent death. The man's boots step into a pool of blood as he closes the distance between them. The cloaked man leans down toward Emily's face, his blue eyes gleaming with dark intent. Emily remains paralyzed with fear as the man reaches out to touch her feathered mask.
The man roughly pulls the mask from Emily's face, exposing her true identity to him.
The man reacts with genuine surprise as he recognizes the woman beneath the staff disguise.
The man admits he didn't expect to find the Duke's daughter working in such a place. The man proposes a mutual pact of silence, suggesting they both act as if they never met.
Emily questions the cloaked man's intentions while he insists on checking something first.
The cloaked man gazes thoughtfully at Emily's long, braided pink hair while holding it. Cloud remarks on Emily's unique nature before deciding against killing the noblewoman immediately.
A small, cheerful version of the cloaked man appears in a momentary comedic beat.
Emily stares in shock as the man suggests she would make a fun pet.
A group of guards suddenly surrounds the pair, demanding their immediate surrender and cooperation.
Masked men point swords at the intruder, who casually admits he stayed too long. Claude decides to depart to avoid being scolded for his tardiness by his master.
The guard grows angry, believing the intruder fails to understand the gravity of being surrounded. With a confident smirk, the cloaked man snaps his fingers to activate a hidden power.
The lead guard looks stunned as blood suddenly begins to pour from behind his mask.
Agonized screams echo through the hallway as the guards are struck by an unseen force. The guards collapse in pools of blood while Claude walks away from the carnage unfazed. Dark energy swirls around the man's boots as he continues his slow, deliberate escape.
A transition panel highlights the intensity of the man's dark and mysterious magical presence. Claude looks back at Emily, advising her not to feel wronged by the coming events.
He claims the floating, chained book is simply returning to its original and rightful owner.
Emily worries that using her own magic to stop him will reveal her dangerous secrets. Watching the tome being taken, Emily fears the loss of the precious black magic book.
Emily's eyes narrow with sudden realization as she prepares to change her tactical approach.
Stopping the man, Emily requests he answer one final question before he makes his exit.
The cloaked man pauses mid-step and invites the noblewoman to ask whatever she wishes.
Emily looks directly at the intruder and asks him to reveal his true name.
A moment of silence passes as the mysterious man considers the woman's unexpected request.
He identifies himself as Claude and asks what prompted her sudden interest in his identity.
Emily smiles knowingly, stating that learning his name is a matter of basic social manners.
Raising a radio, Emily declares they will now share the stage as unexpected partners. Emily orders the staff to send item 183 to the stage immediately, surprising the man.
Mechanical gears grind as the floor beneath the characters begins to shift and rise.
Claude looks confused as the storage platform begins moving toward the main auction hall.
The auctioneer takes center stage to introduce the next highly anticipated item of the night. Dramatic music swells as the large red curtains begin to part for the final reveal. The audience gasps as Emily and Claude appear on stage together with the legendary tome.
Claude laughs hysterically, finding the sudden turn of events to be completely and utterly insane.
Claude asks Emily if she is playing tricks while insisting the book belongs to him.
With a challenging look, the man accepts the game to see who will emerge victorious.
A stylized promotional panel features a vibrant illustration of characters from the ongoing story.
Murmurs ripple through the crowd as the audience reacts to the strange scene on stage.
Emily's companion bites her nails in anxiety, wondering why the proceedings are taking so long.
The auctioneer announces that a 300-year-old artifact will be presented earlier than originally scheduled. He describes the condition of the piece while two men in the audience look on suspiciously. The auctioneer reveals the lemegeton, unaware that an intruder is standing right beside the item.
Emily's companion is horrified to see the noblewoman appearing from behind the stage curtain. Chaos erupts as guards are called to the stage to handle the sudden security breach. Claude sighs and touches his chin, noting that things rarely go as smoothly as planned. A man's voice cuts through the noise, calling out Emily's name from within the crowd.
Tristan and his team rush toward the stage to rescue Emily from the rising danger.
Tristan urges Emily to leap from the stage, promising to catch her safely in his arms. Emily jumps into Tristan's arms as her mask falls away, revealing her face to everyone. The chibi companion berates Emily for her reckless behavior and long unexplained absence during the event.
Panicked guests scream for help as chaos erupts throughout the auction hall during the frantic escape.
Tristan urges the group to prioritize running and save the complex explanations for a later time.
A close-up captures a character's internal reaction to an accidental and embarrassing slip of the tongue.
Emily recalls seeing the mysterious man in a black robe while returning from a previous meeting.
Tristan identifies the suspicious figure as the man Emily mentioned wearing the black robe earlier.
Emily insists that nothing suspicious happened during that encounter, and Tristan accepts her explanation for now.
Tristan demands a full report later while Emily suggests they focus on their primary objective.
A decorative lace and flower transition signals a brief lull in the fast-paced action.
Tristan notes the auction house is in total disarray as they prepare to make their exit.
Emily shocks her companion by revealing that she successfully secured the forbidden black magic book.
The group stares in awe as the stolen book emits a brilliant, magical blue light.
Emily realizes they must leave immediately before the theft is discovered by the surrounding guards.
Bloodstains and dead guards litter the corridor, marking the trail of a violent and ruthless intruder.
Claude stands among the carnage, his expression turning cold upon discovering that his prize has vanished.
Chibi Claude wonders if a thief took the book or if it vanished through magical means.
A sudden realization dawns on Claude as he suspects the pink-haired noblewoman of stealing the tome.
Claude laughs manically, finding Emily to be an incredibly fascinating and interesting human for her bravery.
More guards arrive as Claude confidently prepares to fight his way out of the building.
The cloaked man insults the swarming humans before casually making his exit from the scene.
A clenched fist and dark energy indicate a character's rising power and dangerous intent.
Claude resolves to wait patiently until his plans are perfectly prepared to reclaim what is his.
Isaac carries Emily and her companion through the mansion, searching for an exit from the chaos.
Guests scream for guards as the group pushes through the panicking crowd toward a potential exit.
Tristan notes the entrance is swarming with people and instructs Isaac to take the lead.
Isaac confidently promises to forge a new path for the group to escape the mansion safely.
Sharp lines and dark textures emphasize the sudden and explosive movement about to occur.
Isaac smashes through a stone wall with ease while carrying his companions away from danger.
Isaac tells the others not to squirm, noting this method is faster than running normally. Emily's companion looks completely dazed and overwhelmed as she is whisked away during the escape.
Isaac calls for Tristan to keep up as they sprint toward the city under nightfall.
The palace and city landscape are bathed in blue moonlight as the escape continues. They finally stop to catch their breath, certain that they have finally eluded all their pursuers.
Tristan remarks on Isaac's physical recovery after witnessing his brother's impressive display of monstrous strength.
Chibi Isaac brags about his speed, having outpaced everyone while carrying 2 people. Emily reflects on her brother's former frailty, having forgotten the immense power he once possessed.
A close-up focuses on Emily's realization of the vast gap between appearances and true strength.
Narration reveals Isaac was once a top candidate for captain of the Imperial Knights.
The Walker family's inherent blessing of monstrous strength is highlighted as the source of Isaac's power.
Chibi Emily questions if she even needs to train anymore with such powerful brothers protecting her.
Smoke and fire rise from the auction house as the group watches the distant destruction.
Tristan notes the Imperial family will investigate, relieved they left before being caught and arrested.
Emily's companion asks about the identity of the suspicious man they encountered during the heist. The companion remains crouched on the ground, still shaken by the night's high-stakes events. Emily identifies the mysterious man as likely being the formidable leader of a warlock group. Her companion panics, questioning why Emily would confront such a dangerous individual on her own.
Tristan tries to de-escalate the tension, explaining that Emily did not intentionally seek out the encounter.
Emily recounts the series of events that led her from the storage room to the heist.
Morning light shines over the grand palace as a new day begins after the night's chaos.
A close-up of a white cloak and tea service suggests a formal morning meeting is underway.
Chibi Emily enters the room and offers a nervous morning greeting to the person waiting inside.
Cyan asks Emily about her visit, leading her to accept a casual tea invitation.
A steaming teacup is served, marking the beginning of their formal morning meeting.
Cyan offers an apology to Emily, who reacts with confusion at the large table.
Emily insists her involvement is necessary since black mages are targeting her family's house.
Cyan smiles radiantly, surrounded by a floral atmosphere that highlights his charming presence.
Emily sips tea while realizing Cyan has mastered using his face to charm others. Cyan asks how long she has worked as a scribe for the Crown Prince.
He shifts the focus to inquire about her experience with work regarding black mages.
Emily admits her experience is brief, realizing Cyan is probing for her true involvement. Emily decides that a simple strategy is best for handling this charming and observant man.
Complimenting him, Emily states that seeing the saint this close makes him even more impressive.
Cyan spits out his tea in shock, completely caught off guard by her sudden flattery.
A blushing Cyan bashfully thanks Emily for the high praise while trying to regain composure.
Emily asks if he is accustomed to hearing such glowing compliments from the people around him.
She remarks that his marriage proposals would be endless if he were a noble, then apologizes.
Cyan notes that her bright personality likely explains why the Crown Prince selected her.
Emily realizes Sion is curious about why she is working with a man like Tristan.
The Walker family crest symbolizes the unique and exceptional abilities inherited by members of her house.
Sion asks Emily to reveal the specific divine blessing she was born with as a Walker. Emily claims her ability is the power to track the lingering remnants of black magic.
Sion's gaze turns sharp and calculating as he processes Emily's claim about her unique power.
Emily thinks that appearing useful as a living radar will grant her the upper hand.
Sion finds it intriguing that she senses black magic without having any detectable divine power.
Emily remains humble, calling her talent meager compared to the power possessed by the saint. Sion looks away pensively, seemingly assessing the value of Emily's unique and dangerous ability.
He explains the difficulty of tracking magic, which requires spreading divine power over a wide area.
Chibi Sion explains his secret cooperation with the Crown Prince limits his ability to use priests.
Sion stares intently at Emily, his expression a mixture of fascination and deep, hidden curiosity.
Emily resolves to build a relationship with the saint so he eventually owes her a debt.
Emily smiles cheerfully, playing the part of a helpful noblewoman to win over the saint.
The scene shifts to the city marketplace where Emily stands waiting for their next meeting.
Sion arrives wearing a hooded white robe, his elegant presence standing out in the street.
Sion apologizes for his lateness and assures Emily that his power can protect her from danger. Under his hood, Sion offers a soft and gentle smile as their investigation begins.
Emily requests that Sion call her by her name, setting a more informal time.
Sion agrees to call her Emily as they walk together through the busy city marketplace.
Emily asks for the specific reason Sion requested to meet with her in the Say.
Sion mentions the explosion on the outskirts and the results of the official Imperial investigation.
A vision of the masked auctioneer appears as Sion mentions the secret underground auction house.
He notes that while most items were recovered, one specific legendary artifact is still missing.
Sion describes the black magic tome. Emily asks if it burned, but Sion denies it.
He admits the biggest problem is that they do not know the tome's true nature. A flashback features Lev describing the Lemegeton as a guide for summoning 72 different demons.
Sion explains that Emily is the only person who can find traces of the missing book.
Emily agrees to help Sion, stating it would be a great honor to assist him.
Sion intends to search the capital today, believing the book is still hidden within the city. Emily internally notes the book is in her house but suggests they perform another task first.
Sion looks startled and confused as Emily makes an unexpected suggestion regarding their current plan. She suggests Sion needs a new outfit because his white robes are far too conspicuous.
Sion becomes visibly flustered and embarrassed as Emily critiques his choice of clothing for their mission.
Emily brushes off the awkwardness, suggesting Sion change into more casual clothes nearby.
Sion looks slightly hesitant, unsure of this sudden change in their planned investigation.
Noticing his hesitation, Emily wonders if she was being too bold with her suggestion.
She offers a gentle smile, trying to put her companion at ease for the task.
She notes internally that his expression reveals he is not entirely opposed to the idea. The two walk through the city with Sion's white clerical robes still drawing attention. Inside a boutique, the tailor excitedly presents various stylish outfits that would suit the saint.
Sion tries on multiple elegant noble suits, each one looking more impressive than the last.
Emily is left speechless by Sion's striking appearance, finding he makes even simple clothes look extraordinary.
Impressed, Emily decides to purchase everything and requests a dark-colored robe to complete his disguise.
Sion emerges wearing a sophisticated dark blue outfit and a matching hooded cloak.
Emily presents a family payment card while Sion tries to insist on paying for himself.
Emily points out that the church values frugality and he cannot use his official allowance while sneaking.
The pink-haired noblewoman smiles brightly at the saint, who is now effectively hidden from public view. After a moment of silence, Sion chooses to gratefully accept her generous gift of new clothing. A door shuts behind them as they leave the boutique to continue their secret mission.
Emily notes he looks like a noble young master. Sion finds the non-clerical attire feels quite awkward.
Emily asks if serving the divine from a young age is required to become a priest.
Sion explains that early service allows the body to contain a greater amount of holy power.
They arrive at a scenic urban area, and Sion admits he has never visited such places.
Emily grabs Sion's hand and urges him to follow her as she leads the way. She looks back at him with an encouraging expression, enjoying their brief moment of normalcy.
Emily reflects that she must keep him distracted so he doesn't think about the stolen book.
Their stroll continues through a charming district filled with half-timbered houses and festive decorations.
They pass by a central fountain where children play, soaking in the peaceful atmosphere of the capital.
Emily happily offers Sion a street food skewer, introducing him to common snacks of the city.
The sun begins to set, casting a golden glow over the massive stone walls of the cathedral.
Climbing the stairs of the grand structure, Sion wonders where Emily is taking him.
From a high balcony, Sion marvels at the breathtaking view of the city bathed in sunlight. Emily turns to him and asks if he finds the sunset view over the capital beautiful. Sion is struck by the scene, looking at Emily as the evening light reflects in his eyes.
She remarks that the lighting makes his hair look as though it is made of pure gold.
Sion is flustered by the direct compliment and turns away while clearing his throat awkwardly.
Emily mentions her brothers often visit this area. Cyan notes rumors of her family's close bonds.
A thought bubble highlights the difficulty Emily faced while trying to leave her house earlier. In a memory, Tristan and Isaac demand to know who she is meeting while being overprotective.
A close-up shows Cyan's thoughtful expression as he considers the depth of Emily's familial relationships. Looking at her with a gentle smile, Cyan observes that she is truly and deeply loved.
Emily feels embarrassed hearing such a sentiment from a man who is blessed with divine love.
Cyan admits he had so much fun that he temporarily forgot the purpose of their outing.
A small chibi icon of Emily celebrates her successful distraction of the observant saint.
Emily apologizes for not finding black magic traces, while Cyan expresses gratitude for her time.
A close-up of Emily's eye captures a fleeting moment of guilt or deep contemplation.
Cyan urges her to take care of herself, his expression turning serious and protective.
Cyan explains that mages target descendants of the 13 prophets for reasons beyond simple old grudges.
He reveals there is a much more critical and dark reason for the warlock's persistence. Narration states the descendants' souls are required to maintain the magical barrier on Thanatos Island.
Emily is horrified to learn her ancestors use their own descendants as involuntary foundation stones.
Countless spectral hands reach out, symbolizing the burden of the souls trapped within the ancient barrier.
Cyan explains that if Emily dies, the barrier weakens, making a warlock breakout much more likely.
Emily clutches her head in distress, realizing many lives depend on her success in this mission.
Cyan explains that the church and several nations are coordinating efforts to prevent any further casualties.
He gazes out at the peaceful capital, expressing a fervent hope that their daily lives won't collapse.
Emily tells Cyan that although she hasn't found magic traces, she knows of one very suspicious place. Cyan leans in close, his expression turning intense as he asks Emily to reveal the exact location.
Emily recounts an invitation to a tea party hosted by Countess Swanson, where things felt undeniably strange.
Cyan reacts with surprise, questioning what exactly was unusual about the gathering the pink-haired noblewoman attended.
Desperate for even the smallest clue, Cyan firmly grasps Emily's hands, overwhelming her with his intense holiness.
Emily looks sheepish and flustered, struggling to find the words to explain the situation to the saint. In a chibi-style panel, Emily and Cyan stand hand in hand as she begins to share her findings. Cyan reveals that a secret escort has been following them, leaving Emily annoyed by the hidden surveillance. Cyan snaps his fingers, assuring Emily that the guard will be a very welcome face for her.
Emily feels physically ill as a figure in white robe suddenly arrives to join their secret investigation.
A blonde knight in white armor kneels respectfully, offering a formal greeting to Cyan as his witness.
Emily is frozen in shock, her eyes wide with disbelief at the sight of the unexpected man.
The shock continues as Emily stares blankly, unable to comprehend why Hazel is appearing before her now.
Cyan explains that he specifically requested Sir Hazel to escort them because of their childhood bond.
Emily is nauseated, recalling rumors that Hazel was supposed to be away on a forest mission.
Hazel and Cyan stand together. The knight explains he's secretly diverted to the capital on his own.
Chibi Emily asks if this is allowed, and Cyan casually says it's fine if they aren't caught. Cyan explains he needed a personal ally for this mission because the church cannot be involved.
Emily realizes Hazel is being used as leverage, but she maintains a cheerful facade to mask her annoyance.
The scene shifts as Emily agrees to the plan, stating she feels safer with Hazel around.
Narrative text mentions a friend invitation from Countess Spencer that Emily received while at the tea party.
A pile of elegant wax-sealed envelopes and letters suggests the heavy social obligations of the capital's nobility.
Emily admits that her memory of the specific tea party with Countess Swanson feels strangely hazy and incomplete.
A close-up captures Emily's struggle to articulate the inexplicable feeling of wrongness she experienced at the event.
She describes a mental fog and a lingering sense of wrongness to her two companions in the hallway.
Emily wonders if she is just imagining things and if bringing up the topic was ultimately pointless.
A close-up shows a hand clenching a white cloak, signaling a sudden tense reaction to Emily's story.
Hazel reveals a shocking secret. Countess Swanson died while he and Emily were still at the academy.
Emily is stunned, noting that even Natalie mentioned how beautiful the supposedly deceased Countess appeared to be.
The group realizes the Countess's existence is impossible, confirming she possesses a suspicious and likely dark power.
Emily smiles sharply, deciding to use Hazel as a pawn in her own game against their enemies.
A carriage travels through the city streets at night. Cyan's voice notes that something is very strange. Inside the carriage, a hooded Cyan asks Hazel to explain the nature of his knowledge regarding Swanson.
Hazel notes that the Countess's death was public knowledge, making it impossible for Emily to be deceived.
A wide shot of the carriage exterior captures the group's resolve to investigate the matter properly tonight.
Cyan explains that this personal investigation must remain independent of official church activities to ensure secrecy.
Hazel's golden eye reflects a burning hatred for black mages as he remembers his vow. Cyan acknowledges Hazel's resolve, stating they will do whatever it takes to punish the practitioners of darkness. Cyan reads a document detailing Hazel's extreme aggression toward mages and his high risk of going berserk. Cyan asks for Hazel's help until every black warlock on the continent is finally and completely eradicated.
A transition image features blue and white sparkling dust, signaling a shift in the story's timeframe.
Sir Hazel bows elegantly in a brightly lit hall, presenting a picture-perfect image of a chivalrous knight. In a beautiful evening dress, Emily asks Hazel if such manners are part of regular church training.
Chibi Hazel explains to Emily that respecting a lady is the most fundamental principle of true chivalry.
Emily pivots the conversation to ask Hazel if he has recently contacted their mutual friend, Natalie.
Hazel admits he was relieved to find that Natalie appeared to be acting normally after their last encounter.
Chibi Hazel teases Emily, remarking that he can't take his eyes off her because she attracts trouble.
Emily asks where they are going, noting it isn't the reception room.
Cyan explains the area is off-limits to outsiders and remains largely unknown.
Emily follows the saint through a majestic and quiet golden hallway.
The pair passes by grand architectural features, including an angelic statue.
Emily feels a sense of sin just by standing there as a black mage.
A visible unease crosses Emily's face as she navigates the holy space.
Her steps echo through the hall, heightening her internal discomfort. They arrive at a set of massive, intricately decorated golden doors.
Emily pauses to take in the serene beauty of the sunlit interior.
Cyan stands before the altar, the sunlight illuminating his translucent veil.
He claps his hands together, lost in a moment of silent prayer.
Sensing her presence, the saint turns his head toward the pink-haired noblewoman.
Emily thanks him for sending Hazel so they could catch up. Cyan calls it his duty.
Cyan's expression turns solemn as he prepares to ask Emily a question.
He asks if she would do anything to destroy the Black Mages. His intense gaze through the veil underscores the gravity of his inquiry. Emily is taken aback, internally questioning if this is a suicide suggestion. Cyan gestures for Emily to sit comfortably before they continue their talk.
He explains this is a continuation of what she told him before.
Cyan suspects Countess Swanson is a black mage and asks Emily to lure her.
Emily reflects on the absurdity of being asked to act as bait.
The saint's eyes pleadingly search hers, emphasizing his need for her help. She agrees to help, privately resolving to eliminate Penelope as soon as possible.
Emily mentions receiving an invitation and suggests bringing Hazel. Cyan accepts her offer.
Cyan says Natalie will be happy since she always nags Hazel to attend parties. The two share a brief, lighthearted moment before focusing back on the plan.
Cyan outlines a strategy where Hazel infiltrates first while he remains on standby.
The primary goal is neutralizing Swanson, followed by rescuing any captives.
Cyan acknowledges the risk of hostages, his resolve remaining firm and cold.
Emily's concern deepens as she thinks about Natalie being in potential danger. Emily asks if saving people is the point, while Cyan asks how many one mage can kill. Emily internally notes she would kill 0. Cyan warns of total chaos. Emily privately scoffs at his dramatic desk-messing predictions.
A mental image shows Emily imagining the chaos as merely a messy workspace.
The saint insists that cutting off the threat early is the best action.
He admits to the possibility of casualties but feels his cause is just. Emily finds his arrogance off-putting as he justifies potential lives lost for the greater good.
Cyan acknowledges the harshness of his methods while refusing to compromise his duty. Emily bristles at his self-righteousness, reflecting on the lack of choice in her nature. She laments her own lost normalcy but trusts Hazel to prevent a tragedy. Cyan asks her to pass the invitation to Hazel, thanking her for cooperating.
Left alone, Emily contemplates the bizarre and dangerous role she has accepted.
A few days pass and the scene shifts to a grand noble estate. Countess Swanson greets Emily with a bright, friendly smile at the gathering.
Emily returns the greeting, maintaining her polite and social noble persona.
Penelope insists they use first names, expressing a desire for closer friendship.
Emily agrees to the informality and asks if Natalie is already inside.
Penelope confirms Natalie's arrival and asks about the extra friend Emily mentioned. Emily says her friend should arrive any moment as she privately doubts Penelope's hospitality.
Emily announces her friend's arrival, offering to introduce the new guest.
A dark boot steps out of the carriage, signaling a new player's entry. Penelope asks for the name of the friend Emily invited while clenching her hand.
Hazel appears in a white suit, looking like a noble and chivalrous knight.
Emily introduces Hazel to Penelope, explaining he just returned from church service. Hazel bows elegantly and introduces himself to the suspicious noblewoman. Penelope greets Hazel, acknowledging him as a close friend of both Emily and Natalie. Penelope tells them to enjoy themselves, and Emily politely thanks her for the invitation. Penelope laughs and tells the pair to chat before heading inside the mansion. Emily and Hazel watch Penelope walk away toward the estate from the garden.
Emily whispers to Hazel about sensing something, and he advises caution before they enter.
Emily enters the estate, immediately noticing a dark atmosphere and strange fog.
Emily observes the partygoers through the mist, questioning the odd situation.
She realizes the gathering feels more like a dangerous back alley event than a noble party.
Emily is suddenly startled by a figure appearing behind her.
Natalie greets Emily with a flushed face, appearing to be highly intoxicated.
Natalie asks about Hazel's whereabouts and Emily questions how much she has had to drink. Emily notes Natalie's low alcohol tolerance and wonders why she is drinking champagne. Penelope interrupts, noting that Emily and Natalie have already managed to find each other.
Penelope asks Emily how she is enjoying the gathering so far.
Emily replies that the atmosphere is impressive, but admits to being surprised by it.
Penelope explains she wanted to avoid boring tea parties and offers Emily a drink.
Emily politely declines the drink, internally worrying about the contents of the glass.
Penelope's expression turns cold as she insists that Emily should drink while she is being nice. Emily stares at the glass, feeling the weight of the noblewoman's intense pressure.
In a terrifying close-up, Penelope commands Emily to drink the liquid.
Emily realizes the guests are brainwashed and recognizes the magic being used.
Emily decides to pretend to be affected and takes a sip while Penelope watches closely. Penelope pets Emily's head, praising her for making the right choice.
Emily looks at the empty glass, wondering what sinister substance she just consumed.
Penelope claps for attention, announcing to the crowd that the party must end early.
She claims they must finish because a little rat has snuck into their gathering.
Emily senses an ominous change in the air and hopes Hazel arrives soon. Penelope orders everyone to take a specific item to test the drug's effectiveness.
Servants carry trays filled with round white bulbs into the middle of the room.
Emily holds one of the bulbs, shocked to find that it is actually a raw onion. Penelope smiles and tells the crowd to enjoy the very sweet apples she provided.
The brainwashed nobles bite into the raw onions, claiming they are delicious and sweet.
A man who isn't brainwashed reacts with disgust, realizing he is holding an onion.
Penelope's hand suddenly reaches out and grabs the man by his hair.
She violently jerks the man's head back to force his mouth open.
Penelope pours a dark liquid down the man's throat as he gags and struggles.
The man falls to the floor on his knees as the liquid takes effect.
Now brainwashed, the man bites the onion and declares it to be sweet. Emily realizes the drink maximizes brainwashing, explaining why Penelope forced it on her. She reflects on how Penelope uses this cruel trick to identify people who aren't brainwashed.
Emily looks down at the onion in her hand, wondering if she must eat it. A recruitment notice for scanlation staff provides a brief pause in the narrative.
Emily continues to hesitate, looking at the onion while surrounded by red energy.
She hopes that as long as she stays quiet, she won't stand out.
Emily turns her head sharply as she is addressed by someone near Bad.
A man warns Emily that she must eat the onion before Penelope gets angry.
Emily resolves to pretend to be brainwashed to avoid detection by her sinister hosts.
Herman approaches Emily, asking about her noble lineage while she questions his own identity.
Herman drunkenly explains he is currently dressed exactly like one of the mansion's servants. Emily apologizes for her rudeness, assuming he wore servant clothes for his own amusement.
The messy-haired man introduces himself as Herman, repeating his name with a dazed expression.
Emily politely greets Herman, who responds with a stuttering and nervous acknowledgement of their meeting.
Chibi Herman asks Emily why she is not eating the apple she is holding.
Emily claims a severe allergy prevents her from eating the gift the Countess provided.
The atmosphere grows heavy as Herman leans toward Emily with a piercing, unnatural gaze.
Emily detects an unmistakable wild beast scent emanating from the man standing uncomfortably close.
Herman whispers that he knows she is lying about the onion being a sweet apple. Herman promises to keep Emily's secret while she wonders why he would help her.
Herman expresses his deep affection for Penelope, while Emily identifies him as another black mage.
Emily realizes the plan has changed and urgently needs to inform Hazel about the mages.
Herman confesses he likes Emily and advises her to stay still to avoid Penelope's wrath.
An angry, demanding voice calls out to Herman, asking what he is doing there.
Penelope scolds a running Herman for resting while she busily manages her new minions.
Penelope boasts about her success in turning everyone at the gathering into her personal minions.
Herman grovels at Penelope's feet, praising her accomplishments with an exaggerated display of awe.
Penelope plans to destroy Claude's pride, noting that a small rat followed Emily here.
Penelope considers whether to kill the intruder or revive them as a useful undead thrall. Penelope violently grabs Herman's hair after he warns her about clashing with holy power.
Penelope glares intensely, asking if her subordinate is actually attempting to talk back to her.
Herman immediately apologizes while enduring Penelope's physical aggression and cold, terrifying gaze.
Penelope dismisses Herman's concerns, calling him a coward for fearing the power of the church. Penelope strikes Herman for mentioning her lack of experience fighting against a true holy knight.
Chibi Penelope orders Herman to be silent while she sits atop his dejected form.
Penelope points to her army of brainwashed nobles ready to sacrifice themselves for her.
A dark, swirling energy consumes the scene as the villain prepares her next move.
Penelope notes that the Holy Knight's friends are trapped within the mansion with her.
She smiles maliciously, envisioning an entertaining show involving the captives and their would-be savior.
Hazel enters the hall and Penelope mocks him as their long-awaited holy guest.
Surrounded by oppressive red magic, Hazel stands firm, his expression cold and focused.
Hazel draws his sword and demands to know what Penelope has done to the guests. Penelope laughs at the sight of his blade, unbothered by his righteous indignation.
Penelope points out that the guests are ordinary humans he cannot harm without breaking vows.
Penelope's boot steps forward as she asks Hazel what he intends to do now.
Hazel ignores the taunt and prepares for battle, focusing his holy energy into his sword.
Penelope watches the knight's movements, her red eyes reflecting a mix of boredom and anticipation.
Strange, glowing threads of magic weave across the floor as the confrontation begins in earnest.
Penelope yells at Herman for failing to block properly as a massive beastly hand appears. Herman blames his poor posture for the mistake while Penelope continues to berate his incompetence.
Emily realizes Herman's magic allows him to transform his body parts into those of magical beasts.
Penelope orders Herman to transform and finish the battle quickly as she is growing annoyed.
Hazel takes a defensive stance as Herman's form begins to shift into a monstrous predator. Hazel calls upon the name of the Lord to purify the darkness standing before him.
A snarling wolf head emerges as the Black Mage fully embraces his beastly transformation.
Emily watches the chaotic battle, worrying that Hazel cannot win alone without Zion's timely arrival. Hazel lunges forward with a powerful strike, his sword glowing with intense, purifying white light.
Herman is thrown back by the force of the blow as Penelope screams at him.
A sinister voice expresses deep frustration and regrets ever having expectations for their subordinate.
Penelope smiles wickedly while asking the captive girl if she has forgotten something important.
Penelope holds a knife to Natalie's throat and demands that Hazel surrender immediately.
Hazel reacts with shock as his sword falls to the floor, clattering in the silence.
Bound by ropes, Hazel calls the mages cowards while Penelope mockingly accepts the insult.
Penelope delights in capturing a holy knight's rare soul while Emily watches the scene unfold.
Penelope declares that everyone present will soon be offered as a sacrifice to demons.
The villainous noblewoman mocks the knight's confusion, confirming his ears did not deceive him.
Raising her arms, Penelope prepares to activate a massive glowing red magic circle.
An ominous ritual begins as Penelope stands before the swirling energy of the demonic portal.
A dark circular void filled with ancient, unreadable script manifests in the center of the room.
Emily remains silent and observant as the dark magic intensifies around the captive guests.
Emily recalls Lev's lessons about identifying demons and wonders which one Penelope has contracted.
Lev explains that a demon's identity is revealed by the specific patterns drawn during sacrifices.
The Black Cat explains that demons demand payment or sacrifices in exchange for their power.
Emily realizes the moment she has been waiting for has finally arrived as she watches. The pink-haired girl identifies the demon as Seleos based on the shattering summoning pattern.
A massive glowing white eye opens within the magic circle, staring out from the darkness.
Penelope offers all the humans in the mansion as sacrifices to obtain even greater power.
The demon Celios questions if the humans are the offerings, and Penelope eagerly confirms it.
Celios asks what Penelope desires in exchange for the lives of 53 humans.
The demon notes that Penelope's vessel is full, but she greedily demands more power regardless.
Emily observes the negotiation between the mage and the demon with a calculating gaze. Emily notes that Hazel is still struggling to resist even in the demon's presence.
Emily holds a small white snake and tells it she needs to step back out.
The snake slithers toward the bound Hazel, who reacts with visible confusion and shock.
Emily tells Hazel to sleep for a bit as the white snake reaches his side. Emily interrupts the ritual, shocking Penelope, who wonders how the girl can still move.
Penelope orders Herman to capture Emily, claiming she intended to catch her separately anyway.
Emily walks forward calmly, her heels clicking against the floor as she approaches the demon.
Emily offers the demon aged wine to leave, dismissing the idea of him moving for words.
The pink-haired girl looks serene as she begins to bargain with the ancient demonic entity.
A vision of a rare wine bottle appears, causing the demon to react with surprise. Celios tries to negotiate for 8 bottles, but Emily firmly counters with an offer of 4.
Emily shakes her head as the demon tries to get 6 bottles, eventually settling on 5.
Celios accepts the bargain for 5 bottles of special wine and asks for its location.
Emily ignores Penelope's outrage, noting that Celeos is a notorious drunkard bored with human sacrifices.
Emily explains she has no wine now but promises to deliver it upon returning home. Celios finds the promise intriguing, recognizing a familiar demonic presence connected to the human girl.
The demon departs as the summoning circle shatters, leaving a stunned Penelope behind.
Penelope screams for the demon to return, furious that her sacrifices were rejected.
The Countess vents her frustration, unable to comprehend what Emily truly is.
Penelope orders Herman to capture Emily and bring her for torture without her limbs.
Herman hesitates to follow the order, confessing that he really likes Emily's kindness. Chibi Herman fidgets nervously, asking Emily not to resist so he doesn't have to hurt her.
Emily smiles softly at the Beastman, which only serves to heighten his confusion.
Herman is baffled by Emily's smile while the surroundings are filled with magical light.
Emily looks at the hesitant mage with a calm, almost pitying expression. Herman suddenly picks up Penelope and flees, realizing he must escape from Emily's presence.
A massive fist smashes through the mansion wall as the mages make their desperate escape.
Herman carries a struggling Penelope away, begging her not to let go during their escape.
Silence returns to the grand hall as the noble guests begin to regain their senses.
Emily feels her strength fading now that the immediate danger of the mages has passed.
A noblewoman reacts with extreme disgust to the foul taste of the supposed banquet food.
The guests wake from their stupor, questioning their presence and the true identity of their host. A sense of relief washes over the crowd as their vitality begins to flow again.
Heavy, purposeful steps echo through the hall as a holy figure approaches the weary survivors.
Emily coughs blood, fearing the knight's overwhelming holy power is actually finishing her off. Clinging to consciousness, the girl gasps as her name is called out in the chaos. Hazel questions why Emily is so weak while she blames his presence for her current state.
The Holy Knight catches the collapsing girl, desperately pleading for her to stay awake.
The mansion stands in ruins, a silent witness to the dark magic and holy confrontation.
The aftermath of the demon summoning and black magic leaves a heavy stain on the floor. Hazel stands alone in the center of the hall, contemplating the gravity of the recent events.
Emily reflects on why the mages targeted her, wondering if her lineage was the true motive.
Hazel concludes that Emily must have sacrificed herself to stop the demon and protect the guests.
The knight realizes Emily possesses a hidden depth of character and courage he never suspected.
Examining the residual energy, Hazel finds the clash of different magic types to be deeply suspicious.
A vision of a dark demon appears, asking Emily if she was the one who summoned him.
The entity's fanged grin makes Emily question why her familiar companion is acting so strangely. The demon recognizes Emily as Samuel's child, triggering a hazy childhood memory within the girl.
Emily recalls her first meeting with Lev, a moment marked by talk of prophecies and fate.
In the past, the demonic entity offers a life-changing contract to the young, wide-eyed girl. The scene shifts to the safe and opulent surroundings of Emily's bedroom in her home.
Emily wakes from her dream, relieved to be home, but worried about the effort she exerted.
The girl calls out for Lev, wanting to share the details of her encounter with Penelope.
Looking around the empty room, Emily realizes her constant companion is nowhere to be found. The absence of the black cat marks the first time she has been alone since age 11. Lev has vanished without a single trace, leaving the girl to ponder his sudden departure.
Emily looks down sadly at her bedsheets, realizing the weight of her current solitude.
The girl reflects on the transient nature of her friendship with the mysterious demonic entity.
Emily regrets her treatment of Lev, wishing she could find a way to summon him back.
High above the city, the towers of the royal palace stand against the clear morning sky. Inside the palace, the crown prince and his head knight attend to the empire's business.
Claude asks Zion to review a report, while Zion finds Emily's absence from the office strange. The silver-haired knight remarks that it is highly uncharacteristic for Emily to commit clerical errors.
Claude admits he has grown too accustomed to Emily's presence and efficiency in his daily life.
Zion inquires about Emily's recovery, expressing concern over the severity of the injuries she sustained.
Reports indicate that the Walker family is strictly guarding Emily's privacy during her health crisis.
The Chibi Knight remains curious about the mysterious circumstances surrounding the girl's sudden illness.
Zion notes that Emily proved herself to be far more courageous than anyone had initially anticipated. The crown prince falls silent, deep in thought as he processes the news about his aide.
Hazel asks Claude to help track the grimoire while Claude considers the magnitude of the incident.
The prince criticizes the knight's request as shameless despite the danger the empire now faces.
Hazel smiles, insisting that involving the crown prince is an unavoidable necessity for the mission.
Claude agrees to handle it by charging guests with hallucinogens to ensure their absolute silence.
The prince warns Hazel against taking Emily on dangerous missions without his explicit permission again. Hazel defends Emily's kindness while Claude grows irritated by the knight's familiarity with the girl.
Zion accepts the prince's commands, preparing to follow through with the necessary damage control.
Claude ponders the most effective method for securing and retaining a truly irreplaceable talent.
The silver-haired knight suggests that granting a title and bestowing lands would be the most effective strategy. Claude contemplates the advice while processing the suggestion in the quiet of the imperial office.
Claude decides to prepare marriage negotiations with House Walker, shocking the silver-haired knight into silence.
The crown prince smiles, musing that they could hold the wedding ceremony as early as next spring. Zion reflects on the prince's uncharacteristic behavior, wondering why he is suddenly rushing into a marriage proposal.
The knight suspects Claude is letting personal feelings interfere with his logic despite Emily's obvious value.
Emily stands surrounded by blooming pink roses, appearing like the ideal noble lady Claude is imagining.
Claude decides to proceed step by step, starting with a formal proposal to the girl's family.
Zion asks if he may speak his mind, and the crown prince flatly asks what it is. Zion points out that House Walker never sends its direct members away to prevent divine blessings from leaking.
Chibi Zion explains that any man who marries the lady must legally join the Walker family instead.
The knight argues that such a condition is impossible for the crown prince and heir to the throne.
White lilies bloom against a vibrant red backdrop, signaling the complexity of the impending marriage politics.
Chibi Emily and her brothers hold up rejection signs as Zion notes the siblings' bond prevents political marriages. Claude counters that there is a unique way to bypass the traditional and political obstacles they face.
The crown prince maintains a confident gaze as he prepares to reveal his unconventional solution to Zion.
Claude claims that if he wins Emily's favor and she proposes first, all the problems would vanish.
Zion asks if the prince actually knows how to win a noble lady's favor, causing Claude to flinch.
An awkward silence settles over the office as the two men contemplate the prince's lack of romantic experience.
The narrative confirms that the crown prince is completely clueless about the nuances of winning someone's heart. Night falls over a secluded shack as a cough echoes from within the shadows of the forest.
The blue-haired man towers over a shivering Penelope, addressing her by name with a cold, menacing tone.
Grabbing her chin, the man asks how Penelope will take responsibility for ruining the plan with her solo action. The mysterious leader asks if he requested too much of her during the failed mansion mission.
He questions why hiding among the nobles and waiting for the right time was so difficult for her.
Penelope offers a weak apology as Herman watches the tense confrontation from a distance in the shock.
Herman begs the man to stop, confessing it was his fault for not revealing that Penelope wasn't brainwashed.
The blue-haired man calls out to Herman, who answers with a terrified and submissive response.
The leader unleashes dark magic to punish Herman, asking if he ever gave him permission to interfere.
Looking down at the kneeling Penelope, the man expresses his deep disappointment in her failure to perform.
The leader suggests it might be better for Penelope to return to her original place, implying death.
Penelope collapses on the floor in a panic, desperately crying out apologies to her master.
With a bloodied face, the woman begs for one more chance and promises never to fail again.
The man declares this mercy is for this time only, citing an obligation to correct ancestral mistakes.
The leader announces they are heading to Nyx's tower to liberate their siblings suffering on Thanatos Island.
A close-up of the blue-haired man confirms their immediate destination is the mysterious Nyx's tower. The blue-haired girl laments that Emily was caught in such dangerous work because of her own actions. The blue-haired girl cries while hugging Emily, relieved that her friends survived the terrifying mansion ordeal. The crying girl declares that Emily and her companions are truly her only real friends in the world.
Emily advises the girl to be careful when meeting strangers as they share tea and sweets together.
The girl vows to avoid parties and demands that Emily spend more time with her from now on.
Emily warns that might be difficult, prompting the girl to demand an explanation for her sudden unavailability. A platter of strawberry cake sits on the table as Emily mentions she has an upcoming business trip.
The blonde-haired man asks Emily where her journey will take her as he sips his coffee.
Emily looks determined as she reveals her destination is the dangerous and legendary Nyx's tower.
Dark energy swirls against a blue gradient, representing the mystery and peril associated with the tower.
Inside the palace, the name of the tower is repeated as the news of the mission spreads.
Claude notes that according to the saint, proper verification of the location is still needed.
Emily asks if she should schedule the trip as an unofficial business matter, and Claude agrees.
Claude stares silently until Emily asks if he has something to say, though he ultimately denies it. Emily observes the crown prince staring and unsuccessfully attempts to interpret his enigmatic facial expression.
The dark-haired man examines a document while the narrator wonders about the reason for his stare.
Emily presents a corrected magical beast subjugation report, explaining she fixed errors in the numerical data. After seeing a gloomy chibi version of Claude, Emily doubts her ability to read his feelings.
Steaming tea pours into a floral cup, signaling a quiet transition in the ongoing office work. Claude sits at his desk holding a document, appearing deeply preoccupied with the papers before him.
Emily brings fresh tea to replace a cold cup, and the crown prince offers brief thanks.
The pink-haired girl notes the crown prince is being particularly difficult during their meeting today.
Zion mentions the reports while Emily apologizes for her overenthusiasm regarding the recent Black Mage mission.
Zion laughs while Claude remains frustrated, leading Emily to feel her pride is hurt by her confusion. Claude rests his hand on his face and asks the lady about her thoughts on marriage.
Shocked by the unexpected question, Emily stares in silence as the atmosphere in the office shifts.
Emily offers to list suitable candidates, but Claude clarifies he is asking about her own marriage.
The prince asks about her favorite foods, causing Emily to suspect he has a personal interest.
A sudden flash of realization strikes Emily as she connects the prince's questions to a theory. Emily pictures the short-haired Julia, wondering if the prince's affection is actually directed toward her friend.
Recalling their meetings, Emily suggests the prince ask Julia directly since they make a matching pair.
Zion remarks that the situation is completely hopeless, while Claude reacts with a silent, annoyed glare.
Emily leaves the room, bringing an end to the awkward conversation about marriage and personal preferences. The scene shifts to the grand architecture and manicured gardens of a massive, sunlit, noble estate.
Glowing blue energy and chains manifest as a teleportation spell is completed to reach their destination. Several cloaked figures arrive at the manor via magic, signaling the start of their unofficial business.
Emily reflects on her first experience using teleportation magic to travel directly to the Grand Duchy.
Pulling back her hood, Emily gazes up at the impressive columns and structures of the estate.
A man in a red cape formally greets the crown prince upon the group's arrival.
Grand Duke Ghislaine maintains a serious and regal appearance while welcoming his royal guests to the duchy.
Ghislaine explains he came personally to guide them since their schedule is meant to be unofficial.
The Duke expresses surprise at the prince's companion, turning his focused attention toward the young lady.
Removing her cloak, Emily reveals her face to the Grand Duke as she prepares for the meeting. Seeing Emily's face causes the Grand Duke to stop in surprise, his expression shifting to shock. Ghislaine stares at the girl with an intense, unreadable gaze that creates a moment of silence.
Emily finds the Duke's subtle reaction strange and wonders what prompted such a specific, heavy look.
The Grand Duke leads them through the grounds, noting the location is perfect for avoiding others' eyes. He promises his staff will provide excellent service and encourages the weary travelers to rest comfortably.
Ghislaine asks Emily for a light tea time after dinner, a request that catches her off guard.
Surprised but polite, Emily agrees to the invitation while questioning the man's sudden and specific interest.
In an unexpected gesture of courtesy, the Grand Duke bows and kisses Emily's hand before departing.
Ghislaine walks away into the estate while Claude and the knights watch the interaction from behind.
Zion mentions that this is their first meeting with the Duke, while Claude looks on skeptically. Zion teases the prince about the Duke falling for Emily, much to Claude's visible and growing annoyance.
Emily dismisses the idea due to the age gap, which the men note is about 20 years.
A portrait of a woman who looks remarkably like Emily sits within a golden, ornate frame.
Zion notes that human affairs are unpredictable as the group continues through the estate's sprawling grounds.
Emily watches the men walk away, still deeply puzzled by the Grand Duke's mysterious and heavy gaze.
She realizes the Duke looked at her as if reuniting with someone he had long missed.
The narrative remarks on the garden's beauty as evening light settles over the duchy grounds.
A wide view shows the estate buildings and courtyards bathed in the golden glow of the sunset. Ghislaine thanks Emily for readily accepting his sudden request for a private tea time that evening.
Emily offers to speak casually due to her age, but the Duke's response remains formal.
The Grand Duke calls her Emily, shocking the girl with his sudden and completely unexpected informality.
Grand Duke Ghislaine apologizes for startling Emily and speaks about his thoughts on the previous Duke.
Emily looks stunned as a spectral image of a woman with pink hair appears behind her. Ghislaine recalls fighting alongside a pink-haired general during a war between two kingdoms years ago.
Narrative text explains the woman was a weapon master who consistently led her troops to overwhelming victory. The Duke describes going to war for the Alliance when he had just reached adulthood.
He remembers himself as an inexperienced child, while she was already a legendary and battle-hardened general.
Ghislaine considers the woman a benefactor, noting that she saved his life on many different occasions.
The Duke notes he remembers her mother well, causing Emily to reflect on her own family memories. Emily thinks about her mother being a chaotic troublemaker alongside Isaac at their family's estate.
Emily's mother looks shocked while asking her daughter if she is truly a powerful black mage.
Delighted by the news, the mother finds her daughter's secret magical abilities to be incredibly cool. The mother's parenting style is basically support, followed by the threat of broken legs if caught.
Ghislaine vividly recalls her mother's immense happiness when she finally announced she was having a daughter.
The Duke explains that he recognized her as her daughter immediately upon seeing her face today.
Emily touches her uncommon pink hair, considering the Duke's observations about her mother's unique features.
Ghislaine maintains that their physical resemblance is so striking he would have known her anywhere.
A chibi Emily wonders what the Duke means by alike since she doesn't see the resemblance.
Ghislaine laments her mother's passing and apologizes for bringing up such a painful and sad memory.
Emily smiles, thanking him for the stories since most people in the Empire avoid the subject.
The Grand Duke blushes as he clarifies that his admiration for her mother was purely one-sided. A close-up focus on Emily's mouth emphasizes her silent reaction to the Duke's surprising personal revelation. Concerned for her safety, the Duke offers to accompany Emily on the treacherous path to the tower. He promises to provide elite knights from the Grand Duchy to protect her throughout the entire journey.
Emily suggests talking to the Crown Prince, worried their secret trip is turning into a massive parade. A dejected chibi Ghislaine reacts with disappointment after Emily politely declines his offer of knightly protection.
Claude points out that traveling with such a large group would attract too much unwanted public attention.
Ghislaine warns about the danger of black mages and the frequent appearance of magical beasts nearby. Claude mentions that they already brought highly skilled knights from the Empire for their current mission.
Emily turns around in surprise as the Grand Duke mentions the name of Sir Isaac Walker.
The Grand Duke mentions that Isaac is even considered the youngest candidate for the Knight Commander position. Emily looks on in disbelief, questioning why her brother is present on this specific secret mission.
Ghislaine says his name while Isaac introduces himself formally, confirming his identity to the royal group.
Chibi versions of Isaac and the Duke engage in a silent and intense staring contest with each other.
Ghislaine remarks on how much Isaac has grown, prompting a confused and silent reaction from the knight.
Emily pulls Isaac aside to explain that the Duke was a personal acquaintance of their mother.
The Duke recalls that their mother always treasured and prayed over a necklace Isaac once gave her.
Isaac looks thoughtful as he processes the information about his mother's secret history with the Duke.
Ghislaine decides not to provide a separate escort since their current protection seems to be sufficient.
He presents a special summoning orb for emergencies, telling the group to break it if needed. Claude accepts the orb as the group begins their long journey through the bright sunlit forest.
Emily calls out to her brother as they walk together along the dense green forest path.
She demands to know why he never mentioned joining them during their long carriage ride earlier. Isaac explains he was urgently called in for a special mission and had to leave very suddenly.
Emily continues to scold him for not telling her about his involvement during the entire journey.
Isaac admits he wanted to surprise her, making a playful and celebratory gesture with his hands. Emily sighs and tells him to warn her next time to avoid any potentially dangerous situations.
Claude approaches Emily and asks if her journey in the carriage was uncomfortable or physically draining.
Emily expresses her gratitude, noting that the carriage and care he provided made the travel pleasant.
Claude suggests they camp for the night since the road ahead is rougher than they initially expected.
Claude mentions waiting for the firewood gatherers while a knight calls for Barrington to join the assembly. Emily suddenly stops in her tracks, reacting with shock to an unsettling sensation nearby. She wonders if no one else can sense the damp, fishy energy of death.
A knight scolds Sir Barrington for wandering off and losing focus during their mission.
The man demands to know why the knight isn't following the group's assembly order. Zion notices Emily's distress and calls her name as she tightly grips her cloak.
Terrified and pale, Emily stares into the darkness as a heavy, oppressive presence looms.
A man calls out for Miles to wait, only to be interrupted by horror.
A massive, toothy, worm-like beast erupts from the darkness with a terrifying wet sound.
The monster brutally bites down on its victim, sending blood spraying across the forest.
Claude steps forward, identifying the creature as a magical beast while shielding the others.
The segmented beast continues its gruesome attack, devouring the man in a shower of gore.
Claude repeats his warning about the magical beast as the group prepares for combat.
Miles stares in absolute horror as blood splatters against his face during the ambush.
The massive worm lunges forward, revealing its circular rows of razor-sharp teeth to its prey.
Distant, wet tearing sounds and muffled gogs fill the air as Emily watches in terror. Miles stands trembling, blood dripping from his mouth as the reality of the attack sinks in.
A close-up shows a boot stepping unsteadily on the grass amidst the chaos.
Claude warns the group that this magical beast parasitizes its hosts and orders everyone's caution.
Miles makes agonized, guttural sounds as the parasitic beast takes full control of his body.
The monster's transformation completes, causing Emily to flinch and cover her mouth in horror. Isaac steps in, declaring that he will not allow the monster to attack his sister.
Zion draws his sword, noting with a smirk that the creature is surprisingly powerful.
The possessed knight growls menacingly while Isaac prepares to end the creature's life.
Claude remarks on Isaac's excellent skills, which Emily questions with a look of surprise.
Zion notes that Isaac is using more delicate technique than the rumors of brute strength suggested.
Emily reflects on her brother's recovery and how he switched to technique-based swordsmanship.
Zion reacts with a sudden start as the monster prepares another swift, deadly movement.
The monster lunges with a long prehensile tongue as Zion narrowly avoids the strike.
With a swift, powerful motion, Zion slices through the monster as blood sprays everywhere.
Turning back to the others, Zion calmly asks the group if everyone is alright.
Claude walks over, mentioning that his own attack may have slightly grazed Zion's arm.
A chibi Zion cheerfully thanks the Crown Prince, insisting he is perfectly fine after all. Claude suggests a doctor's visit, noting that holy power can be harmful even to allies.
Zion dismisses the injury as a mere scratch, comparing it to common sparring wounds.
Emily watches Zion closely, suspecting that he is hiding the true extent of his pain.
Narration explains that a zombie's body cannot naturally recover once it has been damaged. The text clarifies that healing for such a creature requires very specific, grim materials.
Night settles over the camp as a blue, starry light illuminates the quiet forest grounds.
Emily sits alone in her tent until a sudden, quiet knock catches her attention.
A figure enters the dark carriage quietly, following Zion's instructions to maintain their secrecy.
A hand pulls back the heavy curtain as the two prepare for a private conversation.
Emily asks Zion if he is badly hurt, her expression filled with deep concern.
Zion looks down at his hand in the dim light, his expression turning serious.
He admits that while he felt fine initially, the injury is rapidly worsening over time. Emily gasps in horror as Zion's arm begins to crack and decay before her eyes.
Chibi versions of the pair discuss the dire situation as Zion's arm continues to deteriorate.
Emily realizes that injuries from holy power will cause a zombie's arm to rot off.
Zion contemplates asking Ed to send replacement corpses since the Imperial morgue is too distant. Emily warns that waiting for a shipment would take too long for his failing body.
Zion hesitates, knowing the only remaining option is to use the corpse of a colleague.
Emily holds Zion's hands, urging him to prioritize their family over any other people.
She stares at him with intense focus, emphasizing that their bond is most important.
Zion looks down solemnly, nodding as he agrees with Emily's assessment of their priorities.
Emily confidently tells Zion she can handle retrieving the necessary materials from the nearby corpse.
Standing over a glowing magical circle, Emily begins channeling her hidden power into the ground.
She directs her black magic through the earth toward the location of the fallen knight.
The dark energy reaches the bloodied corpse, beginning the grim process of extracting its essence.
Zion's rotting arm begins to glow and knit back together as the magic takes hold. A chibi Zion marvels at his restored arm, noting that it is now completely clean.
Emily is relieved it worked, but feels her dormant black mage instincts are rapidly awakening.
She worries about the consequences she might face once her suppressed instincts are fully realized.
Zion suddenly calls out Emily's name, startling her from her deep and troubling internal reflections. He gently pulls Emily into a reassuring hug, telling her that everything will be okay.
Emily grumbles about not being a child while privately noting that Zion is quite sharp.
Zion smiles warmly while holding her, reminding her that they still have their family together.
A close-up shows Emily closing her eyes as she leans into her brother's comforting embrace.
Night remains over the quiet camp as the group prepares for the coming morning's travels.
Credits for the translation team appear over various character illustrations and recruitment notices for editors.
The next morning, Emily exits the red carriage as the sun shines through the forest. Claude offers Emily a light meal, which she accepts with a polite word of thanks.
A close-up shows the spoon stirring the warm, hearty soup Claude provided for her breakfast.
After taking a taste, Emily cheerfully remarks that the food is actually quite delicious. Claude expresses his relief just as a knight approaches them with a look of pure panic.
The knight rushes toward the pair, looking distressed and ready to deliver some shocking news.
He frantically reports that the corpse from the beast attack has completely and mysteriously vanished.
A chibi Emily continues eating her soup while casually thinking that the news finally arrived.
The knight reports that every trace of the body is gone without a single remnant.
Claude decides to investigate the scene himself, prompting Emily to ask if she can follow.
Emily maintains her facade, claiming she has things to check while hiding her secret involvement. The scene shifts back to the forest where the group gathers around the empty site.
A massive, dried blood stain on the grass is the only evidence left of the attack. The knight kneels by the stain, confirming this is where the bodies were originally laid.
Claude asks if the knights on the night watch noticed any intruders or strange occurrences.
Claude observes the total lack of footprints or drag marks, find the disappearance highly unusual.
The knight agrees, noting that the bodies seem to evaporate into thin air perfectly clean. Claude turns his attention to Emily, asking for her opinion on the strange trackless disappearance. Emily claims ignorance, secretly thankful that there is no black magic detector present to expose her.
She suggests that a monster likely took the corpses, making the theory sound very plausible.
Emily laments their inability to protect the knight's final moments while diverting any further suspicion.
A chibi knight cries, touched by the idea that his colleagues were looking out for them. Emily watches the knight closely, hoping that her explanation is enough to satisfy their curiosity.
Claude gazes at Emily with an unreadable expression, making her worry that he suspects something.
He eventually concedes that her theory about a monster's involvement could indeed be the case. Emily reflects on his unconvinced expression, feeling anxious about whether she made a mistake.
The title card marks the end of chapter 37 as the story moves forward.
The carriage and a group of mounted knights continue their journey along the forest road. A scout calls out for everyone to halt, announcing that they have finally located a village.
A quiet village with several large timber-framed buildings appears ahead of the Imperial traveling group.
Emily prepares to enter the village, pulling up her hood to maintain her modest disguise.
She notices a stone monument at the entrance with a peculiar inscription about cherishing life.
Claude suggests staying for the night, and Emily agrees it is the best course of action.
Claude wishes Emily a good rest tonight, and she politely thanks him in return.
Emily stands outside at night, wondering why Claude doubted her claim about the monster and didn't argue.
Zion approaches Emily from behind, asking if she is unable to sleep, which startles her. Zion admits he's awake because of the unfamiliar bed, his red eyes glowing in the night.
Zion invites Emily for a walk since neither can sleep, and she hesitantly agrees. Emily plans to sound out Zion's true thoughts as they walk through the quiet village grounds. Zion asks Emily what she thinks of him, causing her to stop and look at him.
Chibi Emily wonders if he is probing her secrets or expressing romantic feelings and considers acting clueless.
Emily contemplates pushing for a romantic mood to make Zion lose his composure during their walk. Emily decides to turn the situation around when Zion's composure slips, watching him closely.
Zion says he thought so, leaving Emily confused about what he has suddenly become so sure of.
Zion mentions Sir Werner's advice about work talk fading feelings, wondering if Emily would even be interested.
Emily asks Zion if those thoughts are the reason he was unable to sleep tonight.
Zion admits to that, adding that he lacks good memories regarding the Grand Duchy.
Zion explains that rumors of him carrying Grand Duchy blood spread because of his mother's failed marriage talks.
He notes his mother's poor relationship with the former empress allowed petty rumors to spread without opposition.
Emily stops Zion for a moment to pick a wildflower blooming on the path beside them. Emily mentions she has heard stories about Zion's mother from a long time ago.
She recounts how the Empress chose to wear flowers when nitpicked about jewels, receiving immense praise.
A vision of a beautiful woman adorned with flowers appears as Zion quotes a saying about wildflowers. Emily tells Zion she could imagine how wise and clever his mother must have been. Zion looks down at Emily with a softened expression as she holds out the white wildflower. Zion reaches out and tightly grips the flower Emily picked, his hands showing some slight scarring. Zion looks at Emily and agrees that his mother was indeed a very strong person. Zion tells Emily he is grateful because she helped him remember something he had previously forgotten. Emily suggests heading back, but Zion suddenly notices something disturbing happening with the plant. The ground splits open beneath them as Zion realizes they are in a very dangerous situation.
Zion identifies the ambush as a monster, leaving Emily confused by his sudden warning. Zion explains the monster disguises his flowers to trap prey, and picking the flower has angered it. The monster reveals its true massive nature as the earth around them crumbles and collapses. Zion catches Emily as they fall into the monster's mouth, lamenting their unfortunate location.
Emily regrets picking the wildflower for no reason as they are swallowed by the dark abyss.
Emily lets out a terrified scream as she and Zion fall deeper into the monster's maw.
Back at the village, the ground shakes violently, causing a massive disturbance among the buildings.
Isaac looks at the distant mountain in shock, asking what on earth is currently happening.
An elder sighs, noting that the outsiders ignored their warning and have now caused a disaster. The elder explains that failing to cherish small life has awakened the god of the land.
He states that a sacrifice is required for the god and the ones who woke it are now sacrifices.
The elder points towards the mountain where the earth is splitting apart in a terrifying display.
He describes the victims being swallowed whole as the landscape continues to break and collapse.
A massive explosion of energy and debris erupts from the mountain as the god fully awakens.
The elder clarifies the mountain is a guardian deity protecting them from outside threats.
Isaac turns to leave, prompting his companion to ask where he is going so suddenly.
The companion realizes the village worships a monster and decides they must warn Claude and leave immediately.
Isaac frantically asks Werner if he knows the location of the Crown Prince and Emily.
Werner grabs Isaac's arm to stop him, and Isaac looks back in surprise.
Werner tells Isaac to listen carefully before revealing the news about the missing pair.
Werner reports that Zion and Emily went for a short walk together last night.
Werner reveals the terrifying news that the two were headed directly toward that mountain. Isaac's companion warns that trespassing in the forbidden area brings the divine wrath of the local deity. Isaac realizes with dread that Zion and Emily likely became the sacrifices when they entered the mountain. Overcome with fear, Isaac screams Emily's name as the scale of the disaster becomes clear to him. Deep within the darkness, Emily's eyes flutter open as she slowly begins to regain her conscious senses.
Emily bolts upright with a sharp gasp, finding herself trapped in a vast and lightless underground cavern.
Zion, appearing scarred and shirtless, welcomes Emily back as she frantically offers him his discarded travel clothes. Zion dons his robe while Emily questions their current location, realizing they fell deep into a lightless abyss.
Zion reveals the horrifying truth that they are currently trapped inside the massive stomach of the land monster.
Zion observes the pulsing stomach walls, noting that the creature's internal structure moves at regular, rhythmic intervals. Emily suggests that Zion use his royal sword to cut an escape path through the monster's thick walls.
Zion reveals that his severe injuries make it impossible for him to wield the heavy blade effectively.
Zion explains that the holy sword rejects him, sparking with divine power because he is not its master. Emily looks at Zion with deep concern, asking him if his injured arm is feeling any better now.
Zion dismisses her worry, claiming his condition is manageable, while Emily questions the true nature of his injury.
Zion insists he was merely hurt during the initial fall, downplaying the severity of his physical state.
Emily realizes Zion is lying to protect her, having sustained a broken arm while cushioning her from impact.
Zion decides to investigate the high cavern ceiling, hoping to find a possible exit point near the top.
Emily looks upward, filled with doubt about how they could possibly scale the sheer, slippery walls of the stomach.
While Zion prepares to scout, Emily holds his robe and the holy sword, her face flushed with embarrassment. Zion begins to climb the wall as a mysterious, disembodied voice suddenly calls out to a startled Emery.
Emily stops in her tracks, looking around the dark chamber to find the source of the strange voice.
Searching the shadows, Emily wonders where the mysterious voice could be coming from in this empty, fleshy cavern.
The voice yells that it is right in front of her, drawing Emily's attention to the glowing sword.
The holy sword glows with life, expressing its satisfaction that Emily is finally looking directly at its hilt.
The sword demands to know why she is ignoring it, while Emily realizes she must keep her response internal.
The sword reveals it can read her thoughts through touch, much to a flustered Emily's growing and deep unease.
Emily recalls legends of ego swords, wondering if Zion had been hearing these persistent telepathic complaints all along. The sword boasts of its prideful existence before Emily threatens to drop it, causing the magical weapon to panic.
The sword concludes that Emily must be a descendant of Samuel since she can perceive its telepathic voice.
A vision of the heroic holy knight Samuel appears as the sword recounts its divine mission to punish evil.
The sword laments being gifted to the imperial family, while Emily privately criticizes her ancestors' poor decision-making.
The sword expresses immense frustration that its current owner failed to recognize Emily as a powerful black mage.
A close-up shows Emily's firm grip on the sword's hilt as the conversation with the weapon continues silently.
Emily confirms she is indeed a black mage, leaving the divine sword momentarily stunned by her honest confession.
Emily questions how a divine lineage could produce a black mage like herself who inherently opposes the heavens. The sword suggests they must delve into the very distant past to find the answers to her lineage's mystery.
The sword begins a tale about Thanatos Island, but Emily's attention is suddenly diverted by a more pressing matter.
Emily drops the sword and rushes toward Zion, shouting for him as he appears to have reached his limit. The sword clatters onto the rocky ground, begging Emily to wait and let it finish its important historical story.
Emily frantically cradles Zion's head, begging him to wake up as he collapses from the exhaustion of his injuries.